Hey guys, welcome to part 4 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Hyuga Clan. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe and also comment your thoughts as it inspires me to make more such videos, and remember to check out my playlist section for other interesting stories. So let's get started. Chapter 21. Chunin Exams Arc. Visitor. You really should not have eaten that much, Kiba scolded Akamaru. Karen had enjoyed feeding the young dog, and the latter had eaten so much Kiba had been forced to carry him on their way back to their rooms. Karen knows how much you care about Akamaru, Naruto smirked. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, Naruto said innocently, smiling at Hinata when Kiba looked away. Hinata wanted to say something, but suddenly stopped. Knowing that they were in the same building as Gaara, Hinata had picked up the habit of regularly checking the environment with her Byakugan. But now she saw something that wasn't right. Someone entered our room, she warned, and Naruto vanished. Gaara, the blonde kunoichi axe. You're not stupid enough to go here, are you? She sighed. Temari and her older brother Konkuro had lost sight of him again. Gaara had the annoying habit of vanishing, which she did not particularly mind when being at Sunagaku. Being close to him was rather dangerous after all. But to let him walk around freely here in Konoha. She knew her younger brother was obsessed with that blonde genin, who possessed chakra almost as monstrous as his. She was afraid that Gaara went after him, but their room was empty. Damned brat, she cursed under her breath. Where are you? With a loud crash, and before she really noticed it, she was forced down onto the ground. A strong hand crushed her throat. Gasping for breath, she looked into the now crimson eyes of the blonde boy who had dared to challenge her little brother. What are you doing here? Speak, the boy ordered, with a voice that did not belong to him. It was a deep voice, almost more growling than speaking, and his entire presence radiated an inhuman hatred and rage. Temari could not speak. He really was like her brother, a monster. Her eyes wide open, filled with fear, she desperately tried to get away. But the boy's strength was far beyond her own. Why would a little mouse sneak around here? Planting traps. The boy smirked. Did you really think you could hurt me? What are you doing? Naruto demanded. Having some fun, the Kyuubi smirked. And teaching you a little lesson. That stupid woman filling your head with ideas of controlling me. The Kyuubi laughed. Just look how I make you choke this girl. How much control do you have now, weakling? Naruto's anger grew. Good, the Kyuubi smiled. Your anger just gives me more strength. Too bad you didn't lose your temper while the white-eyed bitch was around. Enough, Naruto shouted. Temari stopped her struggling, and looked at the boy's face. His eyes were still crimson, but his voice had gone back to normal. And the malice that leaked from him stopped as well. Still, the hand around her throat did not stop squeezing. And the grip had lost nothing of its strength. Naruto. Hinata, closely followed by Kiba, charged into the room. The Hyuga heiress flew forward, and using Naruto's distraction she landed a hit on his arm with a single senbon. One poisoned senbon. Kiba jumped in to drag Temari away. And though the kunoichi was still frozen in fear, he took care she did not escape. Kiba too wanted to know what she was doing in their room. But Naruto was their first priority now. Their biggest threat. Naruto. Are you? Hinata saw the two different types of chakra swirl. Her Byakugan witnessed the struggle for control. For the first time since she met Naruto she saw his vulnerability. You really think a little poison is enough? Naruto frowned, his crimson eyes showing the amusement the fox felt. She swallowed her tears. This was not the time to be afraid. Naruto needed something to calm him down. Naruto. Please don't give up. Hinata suppressed her shivering, when Naruto's eyes looked into hers. His gentle blue eyes had been replaced by fiery and bestial crimson eyes, which looked at her without mercy. With his left arm immobilized by the needle with the paralysis poison, he now struggled to lift his right arm. No, Naruto said with an erratic voice. No, don't. Hinata couldn't think. His grimace and despair, his struggle. She stepped forwards, past his partly raised arm, and hugged him. You never gave up, Naruto-kun. You will never lose. You can't. When she touched him, Naruto froze. For a moment, his face showed only hatred, revealing how much his fangs had grown. But this was merely for a moment. And after which his arm fell down, and the crimson color in his eyes disappeared. As did all the chakra he had amassed. Hinata could feel his muscles relax, and the turmoil of chakra end. I told you that you would win, she whispered, smiled despite the tears now flowing from her cheeks. The fox howled. Curse you. Next time I will break out. Naruto smiled weakly when he saw the fox's rant. For the first in a long time, Naruto felt clear. The continuous tension had left along with the Kyuubi's chakra. Thank you, fox, Naruto said to his prisoner. You only managed to show me how much influence you had on me. And now I know what to look for. The fox clawed at the bars of his prison, furious that he made such a mistake. His grand plan of breaking free now suffered a setback like this because of his own impatience. Naruto simply looked at the demon's tantrum. Not impressed, knowing that the demon could never get to him while the prison was intact. Sad, I was almost starting to feel some sympathy for you. Don't look so surprised, just because you only expect the worst of others, doesn't mean I am only capable of hating you. We're both prisoners, fox, Naruto sighed, after the demon snarled at him. Both of us are victims. Neither of us asked for this. Thank you, Hinata, Naruto said with a weak but gentle voice, as she helped him to a nearby chair. But you should not have taken such risk. Hinata looked at him, but shook her head in denial. No, there was no risk, Naruto-kun. They heard Kiba grumbled as he restrained the struggling Suna Kunoichi. She stopped when Akamaru jumped on top of her and barked. Despite his size, his teeth were too close to her face. Sorry about that, Naruto said with a little more resolution, looking at the Suna Kunoichi. But what were you doing here? Temari looked up, and Naruto saw the pure fear in her eyes. There is no reason to be afraid, Hinata said gently. Naruto-kun had a lot of pressure on him the last few days, but he is not dangerous. Not dangerous. The Kunoichi responded with a near hysterical voice. I saw him. He spoke with its voice. I grew up with such a monster near me. I know when I should be afraid and when not. I know when I am supposed to run for my life and when not. Did your teammates send you here? Kiba asks. No, Temari admitted. We lost track of him. Gaara, I was afraid that. I thought he would be looking for you, she said while looking at Naruto. You grew up with him. Hinata remarked. Temari laughed softly. He's my little brother, not that he would care about blood ties. To him I am just another target. Another piece of meat which he can squeeze the life out. Is he that bad? Kiba asked while slowly letting her sit up. Despite her still obvious fear of Naruto, she had relaxed a little. He is a monster. He hates everything that moves. He is not. He holds a monster inside him, but Gaara himself is no monster, Naruto said firmly. What was he like when he was younger? Did he change? Temari blinked. Hell, that wasn't such a difficult question, was it, girl? Kiba frowned. My name is Temari, the girl said with some annoyance. She sighed. I don't know what you want to hear. When Gaara was younger, he already was unusually skilled. Father loved him for it. Until the accidents started to happen, people who got too close to Gaara always ended up getting hurt. Initially, this seemed to bother Gaara, as if it truly was an accident. But after he killed our uncle, Temari looked down, but she managed to regain her composure again. After he killed uncle, Gaara changed. He began to enjoy killing. Right now, to him, it is as easy as breathing. What kind of seal does he have? Naruto asks. He had already sensed it, but Temari had just confirmed his suspicions. Naruto wondered if he could become like that as well. What would have happened if he had not managed to push the Kyuubi back just now? How long would it take before his mind would crumble too? Naruto is the last descendant of the Uzumaki clan, Hinata explained upon seeing Temari's confusion. He is very skilled in Fuinjutsu. If Gaara hunts me as well, it seems inevitable we will fight. If we do, and I could manage to defeat him without killing him, I might be able to strengthen Gaara's seal. Maybe that could give him a chance to regain his sanity, Naruto said softly. It was not Gaara who killed. I was the demon, trying to break free from the seal. Is that possible? Temari uttered in disbelief. You just saw me, Naruto shrugged. But seals are not flawless. The demons are far too strong for it. But because of the sealing technique that was used on me, I was able to fight back. But why would you? Would you rather have me kill him? Naruto frowned. Would you rather have war between our countries? No. No. But, if Gaara dies, Suna weakens. If Suna weakens, there will inevitably be those who will try to exploit that weakness. Beyond that, if the demon got destroyed along with Gaara, it could destabilize the entire balance between the hidden villages, and lead to global warfare, Naruto explained, keeping his voice calm and controlled. Though, I presume the same could be expected if Gaara would kill me. Hinata and Kiba looked at him. Listen, Temari of the Sands, Naruto insisted. This is your choice, either take it, or watch the world fall apart. I don't know much about his seal. I haven't really seen the seal that was put on Gaara for a long time. Temari hesitated. And it is a secret. Kiba deduced. Chunin are supposed to be able to think and act for the good of their village, girl. Temari grimaced, but managed to ignore the sneer. Do you really think you could defeat Gaara, without killing him? You just said that I'm a monster like he is, right? Naruto shrugged. So why not? Look, I know this is dangerous, but if there is a chance to avoid war, don't you think we should take it? Fuinjutsu is allowed during the exam, like any other jutsu, so technically I would not even break any of the exam's rules. But if any of the Jonin are forced to interfere during the exam, we still risk an incident. We will not tell anyone about this, Hinata promised. But please listen to Naruto-kun. Temari started to explain what she knew about the seal that Gaara had. Though his teammates did not understand, Naruto nodded a few times while Temari spoke. I see. This won't be easy, but with some preparation, it should not be impossible either. Naruto frowned. Naruto stood up from his chair, still shaky from the poison which was supposed to completely paralyze him. Naruto frowned, and considered the possibility that his resistance had improved due to Orochimaru's poisoning earlier. Please do not tell Gaara or anyone else about this, Temari-san. Where are you going? Kiba demanded. Don't tell me you forgot that Gaara is looking for you. Gaara is not near us, at the moment, Hinata replied, her Byakugan activated. He is at the 3rd floor, talking with a tall man, a one-eyed man. That is our Jonin-sensei. So Baki-sensei found him. Temari sighed in relief. Do you really know what you are doing? Naruto frowned a bit. I have a good guess. Don't worry, he added when Temari opened her mouth to argue. I will consult Jiraiya-sama first, the one who taught me about Fuinjutsu. I do not know what will happen tomorrow, so I need to confirm a few things about the techniques I know. He turned around. Listen, things will possibly become rather rough once we face each other. But I promise I will do whatever I can to avoid killing your little brother. Well, unless my survival depends on it. Please don't worry too much, Temari-san, Hinata said after Naruto had left the room. Naruto-kun made a promise, and he always keeps his promises. Why does he care so much? Why would he risk himself? Temari was confused. And it wasn't helping she was now thinking about Gaara as her younger brother against, in contrast with the image of a monster she had of him the last few years. Naruto-kun was always alone, Hinata said gently. Perhaps he sees Gaara as someone similar to himself. I don't think Gaara ever frightened Naruto-kun, but Naruto-kun is just unable not to worry about someone who is so similar to him. Perhaps he pities him, because he too could have become like Gaara. He is too obsessed about this Gaara to joke about it anyway, Kiba added. But we must thank you. You gave him a way out, a path where he is not forced to kill Gaara. Kiba's gratitude was extended by Akamaru, who licked Temari's hand. Chapter 22. Preliminaries Part 1. All the genin had gathered in the large arena at the basement of the tower. Naruto noticed that Team 7 had also arrived, though only barely on time. Despite the low odds that rookies were supposed to have on passing in their first try, all 3 teams had made it. Aside from them, Neji's team was also present, just as Gaara's team, and Haku's. Together with a genin team from Iwagakure, and another from Kumogakure, there were 24 genin present. Naruto saw that there were a lot of jonin present, aside from those who taught the teams present. Team 8 had gotten a message from Kurenai the previous evening that she and many others had been busy because of Orochimaru's appearance. She had insisted that they should be careful, and told them she would meet them today. Hinata, how does Sasuke look to you? Naruto whispered, ignoring Kiba. His teammate was unsuccessfully trying to calm down Akamaru, who jumped around the Inuzuka, unable to restrain his enthusiasm. She activated her Byakugan, and after a few moments, she whispered back, the seal is still in place. It hasn't been replaced yet. Naruto frowned. Hinata shook her head in denial. What are those idiots doing? He mumbled. But Hinata did not know. Though, she assumed that there had not been enough time to replace the seal. Sasuke himself was oblivious to his onlookers. Not unreasonable, as Sakura and Ino were once again bickering about their right to stand closest to their object of affections. Morons, Naruto smirked to himself. They still don't realize he hates that. All murmur silenced when the Hokage stepped forward. The old man turned towards the genin, with an examining look in his eyes. He briefly returned Naruto's smile, but Naruto saw his brow slightly twitch twice, first with Gaara, and the second time when he looked at Sasuke. Hokage-sama will now explain the third test, listen carefully. Anko shouted, with an unusual respectful tone. After nodding towards the Jonin sensei who were present, Sarutobi Hiruzen started to speak. Congratulations for making it so far into the exams. But before I explain the third test, there is something I would to tell all of you. It concerns the true reason for this exam. Hiruzen tapped the hat which symbolized his position as the village's cage. Why do we have all the countries taking the exam together? He paused for a second, and several genin frowned in confusion. There are a lot of reasons which the villages teach, but I do not want you to be confused about the true meaning. This exam is a replacement for war among our countries. What does that mean? Tenten raised her voice among the murmur. The current allies were once enemies, who fought one another for the right to rule. The Chunin selection exam originates from a time when the countries tried to end the wasteful fighting, yet still desired to demonstrate their strength. You fight for your land's prestige. Why do we have to risk our lives in battle for such a thing? Kiba exclaimed. The strength of the country is the strength of the village, Hiruzen answered on a serious tone. The strength of the village is the strength of the shinobi. This exam is a place to see each country's strength, and to show off your own strength. The third test is a life-risking battle, in which you show that strength to the world. Both to the representatives of other villages, and clients from the entire world, all of importance will be there to witness your fights. I don't care about that, old man, Gaara said with a bored voice. Just tell us what that life-risking battle entails. Gaara's insolence annoyed Naruto, but it only seemed to amuse his Hokage. Before that, there is first a preliminary round. This man, the Hokage pointed at the sickly-looking man who stood next to him, is Gecko Hayate, and he will be your referee. The weak-looking Jonin coughed. Good morning. Before your third test, you first have to make it through this preliminary round. Preliminary. Sakura asked dubiously. What do you mean, preliminary? Shikamaru lost his lazy attitude at the thought that he had to face another obstacle in this troublesome exam. Didn't we already make it through the second test? Ino demanded. The first and second test may have been too easy this year, Hayate answered, barely seeming to care what the genin thought. Too many people for the finals. He added before coughing again. According to regulations, we must have a preliminary and reduce the number of participants first, he continued. As Hokage-sama said earlier, there will be guests at the third test, so there is a limited amount of time for the fights. Anyway, those who don't want to continue, please join the other genin who have not made it through the second test. He pointed to the left, where a small number of genin stood. No one. Hayate blinked once. Who the hell is going to give up after all this? Kiba exclaimed angrily. These are individual battles. Anyone who gives up does not fail his or her team. Naruto saw Sasuke and Sakura discussing, though they spoke too softly for him to hear what they were arguing about, he knew what it would be about. When Sakura tried to raise her hand, Sasuke stopped her. Whatever he said shocked her. She dropped her arm, but tears were flowing down her cheeks. Sasuke-san will not give up. Do you think his seal will hold? Hinata whispered, after following where Naruto was looking at. She got concerned when she saw Naruto shrug uncertainly. I hope so, Naruto said softly. I hope his stupidity doesn't cause any problems. That thing is too dangerous. Meanwhile, Anko was also arguing. Though Kakashi stepped in and the Hokage finished their discussion, Naruto could only hear fragments of what they were saying, but his sharp ears clearly heard the word, Orochimaru, once. Hinata looked around, and coughed again. Now, let's begin. One-on-one fights, the names will be shown on the screen behind me. Those who have to wait for their turn go up there. He pointed to the stairs which led to the upper level surrounding the arena. And we don't want to pointlessly increase the amount of corpses. I'll jump in and stop things when I think necessary. Now, let's begin. Behind Hayate, the first two names appeared. Tenten would have to face someone named Tadaoki. Good luck, Naruto said at her when he walked past her. But don't show off too much, he smirked. Naruto had missed the morning training with her team. Guy and Lee seemed somewhat insane to Naruto, but Tenten had always been nice. And their training method was the only one that truly exhausted him. As much as he enjoyed his time with Team 8, Kurenai never pushed her genin as far as Guy did. Don't worry, I won't humiliate anyone, the girl smiled back. Except you, of course. Hinata was somewhat surprised by the way the two genin talked to each other. Naruto hardly ever made jokes around other people. As the others walked to the upper level, Tenten and one genin from the hidden stone, which had to be Tadaoki, remained with Hayate inside the arena. The Hokage went to his seat, and Jiraiya passed Team 8, patting Naruto's head while he walked by, as the joined his formed sensei. Like the other Jonin sensei, Kurenai walked straight to her team. Congratulations on coming this far, she smiled proudly, and she hugged the timid-looking Hinata. I'm glad you managed to come this far, despite the troubles you faced. Hiba and Akamaru were happy with the compliment, but Naruto looked at Sasuke. How is he, sensei? He nodded. Kakashi-senpai said that there was too little time to redo the sealing, Kurenai admitted. But he was surprised how strong the seal was, despite it being incomplete. You really have grown much, Naruto. Naruto scratched the back of his head, somewhat embarrassed by the compliment. Now, please begin, they heard Hayate say. The genin and their sensei focused on the arena now, studying those who they might have to face in the final round of the exams. Tenten bowed slightly, but the stone genin seemingly ignored his opponent. Tadaoki had a sturdy physique, though the face, at least the visible part, as it was nearly completely covered by his spiky black hair, did not hint at an excess of intelligence. When Tenten jumped back, she threw a barrage of kunai and shuriken. Tadaoki performed a few hand seals and created a stone barrier in front of him, blocking Tenten's weapons. Tenten frowned a bit, and took out the two scrolls. Jumping up, she released both scrolls, which now spiraled around her. Twin rising dragons, she exclaimed, as she unleashed a barrage of weapons which assaulted the stone genin from each direction. Tadaoki repeated his initial tactic, and surrounded him with stone walls. Tenten smirked when the explosive tags attached to the kunai she had thrown first, exploded. Tadaoki tried to get out, but was too slow. He fell down, with dozens of shuriken and senbon stuck in his limbs. Though, Tenten had managed to avoid hitting any fatal spots. Naruto swallowed. That was some crazy amount of skill, he said with respect. Not just about her aim, but mostly about the speed at which she drew her weapons from the sealing scrolls. She trained hard, Naruto-kun, an energetic voice replied. Naruto looked, and Rock Lee stood next to him. Unlike his teammate, Neji, Lee was a friendly and somewhat over-enthusiastic person. Naruto could never get used to his clothing, or his stupendous eyebrows, but really liked his fellow genin and former training partner. Lee was one of the few people who could avoid detection by Naruto's sense. He formed an especially strong contrast compared to the stoic and distant Neji. Though Naruto had often trained with his father, Hisashi, he never had spoken much with Neji. Nor did he feel like he wanted to, as Neji had the same behavior as many within his clan, as if he was superior to all others. But Naruto knew that he, like many in the branch family, despised the main family of the Hyuga clan. Though, Naruto never came to understand why Neji extended that coldness to everyone else. I should have known. Naruto grinned. The way you guys train, there was no way she did not improve a lot. We only grow if we challenge ourselves, their sensei. This man looked like an older, but identically strange, version of Lee. No, Naruto had to correct himself, the clothing looked even more bizarre on adults. The Jonin extended his hand. It's been a while, Naruto-kun. But I have heard quite a few things about you lately. I'm looking forward to see if you progressed as much as my team. I doubt much has changed. I was only target practice for Lee, Naruto laughed. There is still no way that I would be able to keep up with that ridiculous speed in a pure taijutsu duel. Her teammates turned their attention towards Tenten when she walked up. She smiled as they congratulated her. Great job, Tenten, Lee exclaimed. Glad I don't have to face you, Naruto remarked dryly. He bowed to Hinata. Not that those explosive tags would hurt that much, but it would have wrecked my new clothes again, he whispered, in an attempt to cheer her up a little. The Hyuga girl seemed to be quite nervous now. I never realized you knew Neji Nisan's team that well, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, when Team Guy celebrated Tenten's victory on their own bizarre fashion. Neji kept failing in his attempts to create some distance between him and his sensei, and Tenten herself just stood there with a slightly awkward face. While I was in Team 7, I trained with Lee and Tenten each morning. Lee is as strange as Guy Sensei is, but Tenten is really nice. A bit direct, and if you mess up she can be quite harsh, but she is a very good person, Naruto replied. They never bothered me because of the, well, and Tenten is also quite talented in the area of fuinjutsu. Hinata felt a little jealous of the way Naruto described the girl. And as for Lee, Naruto shuddered a bit. Taijutsu has never really been my strongest point, but I have never been able to keep up with Lee, even when he carries his weights. All I ever saw was a green blur. Though, I haven't sparred with him ever since I came to Team 8. Damn. Hiba distracted Naruto when he hissed and pointed at the screen. Gaara's about to start. Against someone from Kurigakure. Naruto looked down, not knowing what to feel or expect. Somewhere he realized he was happy he avoided facing Gaara now, but part of him also wanted to just get it over with. Naruto saw Haku urge his teammate to give up, and even Zabuza, who was their sensei as Naruto had learned from Kurenai, seemed agitated. But the boy was stubborn and walked down. Though, no one had expected the fight to be this short. Before Hayate could end the duel, Gaara grabbed his opponent using only sand. Sabaku Q, Gaara said with a deceivingly calm voice, as he looked up towards Naruto. Using so much force that the young shinobi from the hidden mist died instantly. Gaara barely paid attention to Hayate, who scolded him for using this much force, before he vanished and reappeared behind his brother and sister. That was to be expected, Kurenai said with a harsh tone. They were warned and he still stepped into the fight. Such foolishness will get you killed, remember that well, she lectured her genin. Haku looked at his opponent with some respect. The dark-skinned Omoi from Kumo seemed to have little difficulty with keeping up with him. And not many were capable such a feat. For a few minutes now, Haku had not been able to find an opening, while he himself had to dodge a few times. I am sorry, Haku apologized before he executed his jutsu. A limited amount of water flooded the arena. Now what is he planning? Omoi mused. Or is he a she? If I mistook her for a man, she might be angry with me, but if she is a he then. Shut up, his angry teammate shouted at him from the sidelines. Omoi decided to paralyze his opponent, using Raiden. But while he started his hand seals, he saw his opponent lifted one hand. I'm afraid I have to end our fight, Haku said with some regret. I have no intention of ending this in a draw. Omoi looked impressed when a number of ice mirrors appeared around him. An expression which quickly turned into dismay, as Haku vanished into the mirrors and needled rain from each direction. Sasuke grimaced, reliving his defeat when he saw the ice mirrors appear. But now things would be different. Even if it was sealed right now, Sasuke knew he now had access to a power unlike anything he had before. Even Naruto would be left in the dust, once he managed to unlock that power once again. Sasuke's anger grew again, when he remembered that it was Naruto who had sealed that power. He saw what I could do, and became afraid, Sasuke smirked. He was just jealous, seeing that my potential surpasses his. If you face Haku, and he does that technique, just surrender, Naruto warned his teammates. Team Guy and Team 10, who now both flanked Team 8, listened in. How do you know about that technique? Shikamaru asks. I met Haku during a mission, Naruto answered shortly. Between that speed and those icy needles, I'd say Haku is one of the strongest genin left in the exam. Neji looked down. His Byakugan saw the toll that Jutsu had on Haku, and he smiled. If Naruto considered that to be strong. After Haku walked up, and Omoi was carried away, after Haku had apologized again and promised that Omoi would recover within a day, the first member of Team 10 had to go down. Good luck, Ino-san, Hinata said. Ino had drawn another genin from Kumo, named Karui. Sadly, both kunoichi were rather short-tempered, and Hayate barely had time to say, begin, before both girls launched their attacks. Like Omoi, Karui's skin had a dark tint. Her long red hair and bright yellow eyes gave her a rather spirited charisma. For the first time ever, Shikamaru saw a girl who was as troublesome as his own teammate. Karui relied, like Omoi, on Kenjutsu. Unfortunately for her, Ino had the advantage in speed and flexibility. Despite only using a kunai, Ino had the upper hand against the Kumo girl's blade. Something Ino did not fail to remark. You bitch. Karui shouted after Ino had whispered something. In her fury, Karui lunged forward. Ino dodged the strike, and used her left foot to bring her opponent out of balance. Now having the initiative, Ino rushed forward and wrestled the slightly smaller kunoichi to the ground. A few chaotic moments later, Karui stood up, while Ino remained on the ground. Unconscious. The remaining genin from Kumo smiled from their higher position. Her smile turned into confusion when Karui raised her hand. I give up, Karui said on a calm tone. Hayate looked at the redhead and blinked once. Are you certain you want to surrender? Karui, forfeit the match, Karui nodded, seemingly oblivious to Ino's unconscious body behind her. As you wish, Hayate shrugged. Yamanaka Ino wins the match. What did you say? Karui suddenly shouted, looking around in confusion. Hayate looked at her. You just surrendered, so your opponent wins the match. Now, move back so the next match can start, he added on a bored tone. I told you, you had no chance at all, Ino smirked, as she stood up. It's a secret, she added with deceivingly sweet voice, after Karui had demanded to know what had happened to her. Uzumaki Naruto vs Rock Lee, Hayate announced. And you two continue outside the arena, your fight is over, he added, annoyed by the bickering girls. OWWW crap, Naruto groaned. Not bushy brows. But Lee smiled widely at him. I've been looking forward to our next duel, Naruto-kun. Let's give it our all. You should reconsider that, Kiba laughed. Not that Lee heard the warning, as he had already jumped down. Be careful, Naruto-kun, Hinata said softly. I know you can do it. I hope you are right, Hinata-sama, Naruto replied, half joking with the honorific. Though I had rather faced Gaara, he softly admitted to himself. Chapter 23. Preliminaries Part 2. Lee vs Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto vs Rock Lee, Hayate announced. And you two continue outside the arena, your fight is over, he added, annoyed by the bickering girls. OWWW crap, Naruto groaned. Not bushy brows. But Lee smiled widely at him. I've been looking forward to our next duel, Naruto-kun. Let's give it our all. You should reconsider that, Kiba laughed. Not that Lee heard the warning, as he had already jumped down. Be careful, Naruto-kun, Hinata said softly. I know you can do it. I hope you are right, Hinata-sama, Naruto replied, half joking with the honorific. Though I had rather faced Gaara, he softly admitted to himself. Naruto jumped down into the right, following Lee, and Hayate announced they should begin. As Naruto had said, Lee was fast. But for some reason, not as fast as Naruto had expected him to be. Is he holding back? Naruto thought as he blocked another punch. Must be, compared to a year ago, his speed has only increased a little bit. He should have improved much more. Unless, He isn't still carrying all of his weights, is he? As I guessed, a taijutsu-only duel with a specialist like you would be suicide, Naruto remarked. Though the fight had only started a minute ago, Naruto was still able to match Lee's speed and strength. You shouldn't hold back though, I won't stick with just taijutsu. No way I am going to beat you on your speciality. I know very well that you are too good to take such risks. Lee smiled enthusiastically. How did you realize I am holding back? You should have grown a lot more. Compared to our last match, Naruto smiled. He looked around and shrugged. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto exclaimed. Lee's eyes widened, as far as it was possible, when he looked around. What must have been at least 100 Narutos, now filled the arena. You've grown quite a bit yourself as well, Naruto-kun, Lee admitted, the awe still in his voice. Lee, take them off, Guy shouted. But Guy-sensei, that is only for the times when I must protect. Don't argue, Lee, I allow it for this duel. Take them off and show Naruto what you can do. Guy's confident voice rang through the hall. All right then, Lee frowned, as he took of the weights he had attached to his limbs. Are you ready, Naruto-kun? He asked when he was finished, though he did not know which one was real. I was already waiting. Bushy brow, the Naruto on his left smiled. Konoha senpu, Lee exclaimed as he had thought Naruto had betrayed his position. Wow, these are damned heavy, Naruto said from the position where Lee had left his weights. Lee frowned. The Naruto he had just hit had disappeared in smoke, and now he saw another talking Naruto behind him, who struggled to lift one of his weights. What? Another Naruto spoke. We are not ordinary Bunshin. We are Kage Bunshin, not those stupid things. I thought I told you that once before. Oh, and you should probably start being careful now, Lee-san. Several Narutos smiled at the genin with the bowl-cut hairstyle. Lee smiled back. So it is a game of hide and seek. He asked happily. What are they? Sakura asked her sensei. Well, Lee is Guy's apprentice, so this is not really surprising, Kakashi said on an even tone. Guy is called the greatest taijutsu specialist in Konoha for a reason, you know. But Naruto, how can he be this strong? Sakura did not even notice how much her tone, which was somewhere between fear and admiration, annoyed the teammate she loved so much. In a blur, Lee disappeared and popped at least 20 clones. Hinata activated her Byakugan to keep up with the lightning-fast genin. And saw the large formations of chakra that Naruto had created. Still not, Lee said by himself, wondering why he already started to pant. By now, he had destroyed nearly half of the clones Naruto had created. Why don't you fight back? Lee frowned. Who said I don't? Two Narutos responded with a frown and a shrug. But if you insist, we can throw in some extra effort, another added. Fuinjutsu. Gravitation seal, several Narutos exclaimed. Lee was thrown to the ground as he felt like he was suddenly crushed by the weight of a mountain. As he struggled to get up again, he felt the weight lessen, and finally disappear. 7 clones had sacrificed their chakra supplies for that attack. Guess I still need to keep this going for a bit, Lee-san. That seal's duration is a bit short, especially when you struggle like that. Lee. Guy said with a worried tone. Neji frowned. Lee looked strange in the sight of his Byakugan, while Naruto simply seemed to be waiting until Lee exhausted himself. What was the blonde genin doing to Lee? Guy, I think you should consider letting Lee forfeit this match, Kakashi said softly. He is already covered with seals, he added. Naruto has already trapped him. When Naruto created his Kage Bunshin army, Kakashi had uncovered his Sharingan. Whatever Naruto was planning, Kakashi knew he needed the Sharingan to see it coming. Or things would end up like the time Kakashi first tested him. And being embarrassed by a genin once was already one time too many, in his opinion. I realized Naruto was doing something, Guy said without a trace of his normal goofiness. But this would surpass my expectation by quite a margin. I know, Kakashi admitted. He is capable of continuously surprising you, if you don't pay attention. That is why I warn you, up till now Naruto has only been holding back. But so is Lee, Guy said resolute. Lee. The Jonin shouted. Explode. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Lee looked up at his shouting sensei, and nodded. Naruto looked with surprise, as Lee suddenly increased his speed again. Within moments, the heavily browed genin had decimated his clone army. And still his speed did not go down. Four Bunshin created a barrier around the real Naruto, as Lee demolished the last 5 outside the barrier. Why are you hiding? Lee asked with disappointment. So I get the time to warn you, Naruto shrugged. Surrender while you still can. Bushy brows. Don't make me beat you up. I don't want to seriously harm you. I cannot surrender, Naruto-kun. You know why. I will never give up. As you wish, Naruto nodded. Cluster sealing technique. Initiate, Naruto said, on a somewhat apologetic tone. Tenten looked down, frowning at the curious name Naruto just used. She was considered to be talented in fuinjutsu, especially when it came to storage seals, but what Naruto now did? And why was her sensei so worried? What did Kakashi, Sasuke, and Neji see that impressed them so much? Aside from Hinata, Neji, and Sasuke, none of the genin understood what had just happened. To them, nothing changed, only that Lee was somehow incapable of standing up. What did you do? Lee panted. How? Weight seals, Naruto explained. Every Bunshin you destroyed left another seal on your body. I estimate your body would weigh at least 8.000 pounds around now. More or less, I lost count. I see. I am sorry for using such an underhanded tactic, Lee. But I'd rather do this than resort to something that might kill or maim you. And with your speed, I had no other option. No, it is a fair tactic, Lee said, smiling once again. But that leaves me no other option either. Naruto watched as his opponent suddenly seemed to radiate chakra. And Lee's skin turned red. The third life gate. Open, Lee exclaimed. The only warning Naruto got was the shattering of his barrier. Something heavy hit Naruto, and he felt his body fly upwards, while he tasted blood in his mouth. Jiraiya gasped as he witnessed how Lee punched Naruto several times, before the genin caught his opponent with the bandages he had around his arms. This is dangerous, he whispered to his former sensei. We should. Not yet, Jiraiya, Hiruzen said. Naruto could not stop Lee, as the latter made them spin with high speed as they crashed down towards the ground. As Guy had taught him, Lee released his victim just before he reached the ground, in order to avoid crashing down himself as well. But with a devious grin on his face, Naruto grabbed Lee's arm. Kakashi stopped Guy just before the latter could jump down. Both genin had crashed into the floor of the arena. Gecko Hayate found himself lucky that he stood at some distance, but was still coughing from all the dust that was blown up due to the impact. These brats are insane, he mumbled. Not again, Naruto grumbled at the demon inside him. Kyuubi, quit it. Don't mess around with my fights. Why? The fox imitated an innocent tone. I just help you in your fight. This is just a duel, I have no intention of hurting Lee. Tisk. These petty emotions of yours. You used to never second guess your instinct, and just strike down whoever was attacking you. You're becoming weak, the Kyuubi frowned. You used to kill without a second thought. Because of you, I sense the malice in others, Naruto retorted. So unless you have completely lost it, you know Lee does not mean to kill me. Hell, he barely even has any darkness in his heart at all. Who cares? He's just a human. That makes him scum by default. I thought you finally got yourself over those lousy sentiments. I don't care, Naruto said, grimly. Even if I am different. Even if people do see me as a monster. I will not act like one. I will walk my own path, not what others will expect me to do. So keep out of my fight. The chakra from the Kyuubi had mostly shielded Naruto from the impact, and because of it Lee also got out with relatively little damage. In the short moment of distraction from Naruto, Lee had twisted them so that Naruto would fall first. Still, the crash left Lee dazed and confused, while Naruto quickly moved away. And with all the dust blinding him, he lost track of where Lee had gone. As the dust settled down, the audience saw both boys still standing. Hinata had seen what Naruto had done, and briefly said to Kiba and Kurenai that Naruto was still all right. Even though her voice betrayed the fear she just felt. But the impact had taken a heavy toll on Lee. No, not just the crash. The poor genin was out of breath, and his entire body hurt from both opening the third gate. Please stop Lee, Naruto said, as he saw his opponent getting up again. With the countless weight seals on his body still active, Lee was struggling to just move. But he did not listen. Naruto created 5 clones, and surrounded Lee. Yet still he refused to give up. My reserves are too low. But I have to risk it. If I lose now, I can't face Neji either, the frustrated Lee thought. Why is there still such a difference? Why? Harm gate. Open, Lee groaned. Naruto watched as his opponent regained his ability to move, but also realized that whatever technique Lee was using, it also posed a danger to its user. There was no way that Lee had crashed hard enough to sustain enough damage to excuse his previous weakness. Futon. Explosion. Naruto and his clones growled in unison, as they all pressed both hands against each other. I am sorry, but if I do not stop you now, you will kill yourself. Struck by shockwaves from each direction, Lee was unable to escape, and left on the verge of consciousness. I will not stop, he said weakly. Never. Naruto frowned, and bit his right thumb. Kuchio's no jutsu, he said, pressing his hand against Lee's back. Lee fell down to ground, as a toad appeared on his back. A very absent-looking toad, as big as a horse, and with a silvery skin that reflected his advanced age. What? Where am I? Naruto-chan. The toad asked confused, completely surprised by the sudden change of environment. Hi Gamazu-san, I apologize for disturbing you, but could you please restrain him for a moment? Gamazu looked down, surprised to find out that he was sitting on top of someone. Jiraiya almost suffocated from suppressing his laughter seeing the irony of the situation. This was the only toad that had an aversion against fighting. To a degree that he had even sworn an oath to never use violence. Gamazu was more or less a professor amongst the toads, never interested in fights, and always researching some crazy new theory. Fukasaku mentioned a few times that Gamazu was very interested in Naruto's Fuinjutsu, so perhaps he could forgive Naruto for this, Jiraiya thought, knowing better than most how proud and stubborn the toads were once they felt insulted. You want me to fight? Gamazu asks, with both surprise and distaste. No, Naruto smiled. I don't want either of us to fight, but this guy just won't give up. So if you hold him down, he is forced to give up, and the duel ends without violence. Gamazu looked thoughtfully. I guess sitting on top of someone does not count as a violation of my vows, the toad said with a dubious voice. Though, I'd prefer it if you only summon me when you have issues with that Fuinjutsu of yours, Naruto-chan. Naruto bowed to the older toad. I promise to do so next time, Gamazu-san. Guy's jaw dropped. Naruto has a summoning contract as well. He asked Kakashi. Yeah, his rival shrugged. Like I said, he is surprising. But, Jiraiya-sama taught him more than just Fuinjutsu, the copy ninja explained. Guy looked shocked at this revelation, and jumped down, walking towards his student. Lee, you have fought well, but you are outmatched, the Jonin said with a soft voice. Hayate nodded. Rock Lee is incapable of continuing the fight, Uzumaki Naruto is the winner. Wait, Naruto said as Guy lifted up Lee. Gamazu had been confused when the fight was ended, and had returned to his home again. Let me dispel the seals first, that way Lee-san should be able to watch the remaining fights, if he wishes to do so. He did not add that he was surprised that Guy lifted the genin so easily. Guy blinked, and bowed deeply. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You have been far kinder to Lee than you should have been, considering the circumstances. I know, Naruto shrugged. But exams are not, I am not inclined to hurt the few around me who treated me well. Lee has always been nice to me, so how could I have fought him with the intent to kill him? Be careful that others don't exploit such kindness, Naruto, Guy warned, as the trio walked out of the arena. And in the finals you cannot afford to hold back. It is in Konoha's best interest to show strength, while kindness will be seen as weakness in the eyes of foreign shinobi. Naruto looked into the Jonin's eyes. People already see me as a monster, but I refuse to be a monster. I will walk my own path, with my own nindo. Wow, Shikamaru for once did not seem lazy. Even Ino had forgotten her dislike of Naruto, as was clear by her looks of amazement. How much were you guys holding back, last time? Shikamaru asked Kiba. Kiba shrugged. It's not like I even know what that idiot's limits are. Damn, between that insane chakra of his, and this display of skill, I wonder if even my dad. Shikamaru frowned. Strength and skill alone are not enough to be promoted, Asuma assured his genin. But I do admit I had not expected Naruto to be this skilled. I tried to tell you, Kurenai smirked at her fellow jonin. Who now knew he was about to regret his new bet. When Guy, Lee, and Naruto left the arena, they went through the doors that led towards the infirmary. Just put him down here, Naruto said. It'll take me a few minutes to remove all the seals though. Thank you, Naruto-kun, Lee grimaced weakly. Lee seemed barely aware of his surroundings, but at least was not completely unconscious. Just stay still, Lee, Guy said with a worried voice. Opening the fourth gate while being exhausted. What were you thinking? The Jonin added, mumbling. As he said, it took Naruto nearly 10 minutes before he removed the last of the seals. That's it, Lee-san. Now take some rest. I am sorry that you can't beat Neji during the exam. It is all right, Naruto-kun, Lee grinned weakly. Neji could not have given me such a fight. I will train, and beat you next time. I promise. Chapter 24. Preliminaries Part 3, Hinata's Predicament. To his disappointment, Naruto noticed he had at least missed one fight. When he entered the arena again, he saw two medics carrying Sakura away. With Ino quickly following after them. Sakura's opponent, the last Kumo genin, walked to the upper level. Naruto quickly joined his team, a bit uncomfortable under the curious looks all the others gave him. Shino defeated a stone genin. After you left, Kiba informed Naruto. And after that, Temari defeated Choji. I would not like to face her in the finals, Shikamaru said with an agitated voice. Though Choji should not have allowed himself to be tricked that easily. Yeah, Kiba frowned. Akamaru moved a bit uncomfortable on the genin's head. Though, her futon jutsu certainly gave her the advantage, even if Choji had not fallen for her feint. Taking away her fan seems a viable strategy if you have to fight her, Shikamaru mused. Last fight was a short one, between Samui from Kumo, and Sakura-san, Hinata added. Samui uses kenjutsu like her teammates, and as fast. Not as fast as Lee though, that was rather insane, Kiba said with an impressed tone. Though Samui had her advantages as well, Kiba smirked, before he groaned when Kurenai hit him. Sorry sensei. Kiba smiled, not regretting a word. Naruto looked around and saw the blonde girl next to Yugito. Naruto immediately knew what Kiba meant, when he saw the genin who was rather well developed, even more so than her sensei. Damn, Shikamaru grumbled, when his name appeared. The others wished him good luck. As Shikamaru trudged down to the arena, Tenten moved towards Naruto. How is Lee doing? Lee is exhausted, Naruto admitted. But he should be fine after taking some rest. It just took me some time to remove all the seals I used on him. Your fuinjutsu was incredible, Tenten said with more than a little awe in her voice. Where did you learn all that? The archive from my clan, Naruto explained. The Uzumaki clan was known for their fuinjutsu, but after their disappearance, most of it is lost. But some of their books and scrolls were left in Konoha. Though perhaps we could exchange a jutsu or two after the exam. I saw your storage seal during your fight, and it was rather impressive, Naruto admitted. Tenten nodded, and blushed a bit at the compliment, knowing full well that Naruto was way out of her league when it came to fuinjutsu. Hinata looked a bit worried, and hoped Naruto would be willing to teach her as well. Though, she did not know if she would have the courage to ask him. Begin, the heard Hayate say from below. As both Shikamaru and the genin from the Hidden Mist, named Chojuro, were ready to start. Shikamaru frowned. Hidden Mist is supposed to be ruthless place. This guy doesn't fit in. What is he hiding? Chojuro had drawn a large sword, and had taken a stance like he was expecting Shikamaru to attack first. Not that Shimaru would do such a reckless thing. Let's see. Blue hair, pointy shark-like teeth, huge blade. If he didn't pull such a wimpy face, he'd look rather fearsome. But apparently he does not have the disposition to be a shinobi. Or is it a trick? Shikamaru mused, while he jumped back. The sudden move startled the tense genin, and he nearly took a step back. He heard his sensei growl, and looked ashamed. I have to do it. I have to, Chojuro mumbled, as he leapt forward. But Shikamaru saw him coming, and dodged. Chojuro wondered why his opponent smirked like that, until he tried to step back. You really should not charge in when you don't know what your opponent can do, Shikamaru remarked on a lazy tone. Now then. Chojuro felt his arm rise, mimicking the movements of his opponent. How? Shikamaru looked down at the ground, allowing his opponent to see the shadow that connected them. I caught you, and now you lose. Chojuro felt that he rose up his blade, and brought it down on his own head. Shikamaru, of course, did not hold a blade, so the movements did not harm him. But Chojuro fell to the ground, unconscious. Nara Shikamaru, winner by knockout, Hayate coughed. That was quite good, Kiba frowned. Didn't think that lazy bastard had it in him. His laziness can be used, with the right arguments, Asuma remarked. Just threaten him with some training, or extra missions, and he has all the motivation he needs to pass the exams. Kurenai looked at him. Could you not find another way to motivate him? Shikamaru. No. Choji is easy, just promise him some food. Ino is the one who has all the motivation in the team, Asuma laughed. Too much, if you ask me. She's almost worse than, oh, damn. Asuma added that last bit when he looked at the screen. Hinata paled when she saw she had to fight her cousin. Naruto swallowed away his dismay. You can do this, Hinata. Show them how good you are. I believe in you. He smiled. She nodded, not that she seemed very convinced. Kurenai put her hand on the genin's shoulder. Don't doubt yourself, Hinata, but please be careful, she said softly. As Hinata walked down, Kiba looked at Naruto and Kurenai. How good is this Neji? He was the top of his class, Kurenai said with a worried face. And counted as a genius, even among the Hyuga. Yeah, Lee trained very hard to surpass Neji, but until now he never managed to win a single time, Naruto added. But that isn't the biggest problem. Kiba frowned. What is that supposed to mean? Kurenai looked at Naruto as well. Neji. Neji is a product of the Hyuga clan. I fear he hates the main family, as many of his family do. Neji is Hinata's cousin, right? Yes, Kiba, he is. But it doesn't work like that. Neji's father is the younger brother of Hinata's father. And while she is the heir of their clan, Neji was born into the branch family, the servants of the main family. How serious is it? Kurenai demanded. Naruto sighed. There is a lot of unrest within the clan. Some of the branch abhor the rules of the clan, and feel trapped and enslaved. In response to the unrest, the main family tries to strengthen its position. And increases the problems, Kurenai deduced. Naruto grabbed the railing. And Hinata is caught in the middle. She hates the way the branch is treated just as much, but people like Neji only look at her and see her father. Kurenai-sensei. If Neji goes too far, stop him. Naruto looked at Hinata, who now was waiting next to Hayate. Neji was taking his time, confidently walking over to them. Or I will. Naruto mumbled darkly. Remember the rules of this match. You will stop attacking when I say the match has ended, Hayate repeated. Both Hyuga nodded. Begin, Hayate called. I never thought I'd be fighting you. Hinata-sama, Neji said coldly. Though Hinata had dropped into her fighting stance, Neji did not move a muscle. As if he was completely unconcerned. Neji-Nisan. Hayate coughed, urging them to begin. Before we begin, Neji ignored the Jonin. I would like to ask you to forfeit now. You are not fit to be a shinobi. Your lack of confidence is clear to my eyes. You only entered this exam because of your teammates, am I wrong? Hinata looked away, uneasy under Neji's gaze. No, I just wanted to change. Do it myself. To prove. Neji smirked. As I thought, just another spoiled fool of the main house. No, even worse. Your ability is below of that of your sister. Look at your reality. Losers are losers. People cannot change their personality or strength. Kiba looked as he heard the railing, which was slowly being bent by Naruto's fists. Looks, brains, ability, size, personality. Everyone judges and is judged on these values. Values which do not change. It does not matter what a person wishes or dreams, these foolish thoughts only cause suffering and pain. Why don't you drop your act? No, I will. W will. Hinata stuttered. She started fidgeting when Neji activated his Byakugan. You can't fool my eyes, Neji added coldly. Memories. Fear of losing. You are just struggling not to run away, because you know that I am right. Hinata got tears in her eyes. Haven't you already realized? Neji smirked. Forfeit. That was the limit. Shut up. Naruto roared, unable to take this any longer. Stop your retarded speech, you idiot. Hinata. Kick that idiot out of the ring. Hinata looked at her angry teammate. Had she already disappointed him? Kick that arrogant bastard down. Kiba joined. Akamaru barked frantically. You've always kept us going, so have some faith in yourself. Neji looked back, with an annoyed face. Typical. Another dumb Inuzuka and the main family's dog. If it was not so much the encouragement of Naruto and Kiba, it had been Neji's disdain of her teammates. Hinata looked at him, and activated her own Byakugan. It doesn't matter what people say about me. But they will not insult my friends. So you won't forfeit. Fine, but that is your responsibility, Neji remarked, somewhat annoyed that Hinata had found her focus again. Neji dropped into his fighting stance as well. I no longer want to run away, Hinata said, softly but resolute. She jumped forward, and initiated a barrage of hits, which Neji all blocked or dodged. Neji stepped back, and took the offensive. But this moment gave Hinata the opportunity to slip through and land her first hit on Neji's chest. Brought slightly out of balance, Neji was on the defensive. Hinata continued her attack, and managed to land another few attacks. Seems like she got faster, but how? Neji mused, somewhat surprised to see how much she, the failure of their clan, had improved herself like this. Yes. Kiba smiled. Way to go. But he noticed Naruto's serious look, and his fist squeezing the railing. Hinata landed another hit on her opponent. At least, that is what Kiba thought, because Neji was turned away from them, obstructing their view. No. What the? Kiba exclaimed, as Neji stepped back, and Kiba saw the blood that Hinata coughed out. So this is what the main house can do, Neji said with his impassive voice. But he could not mask his cold fury any longer. What a disappointment. When Hinata tried to attack again, Neji simply grabbed her first and hit her arm a few times with his other hand. As Neji stepped back, Hinata's arm was paralyzed. No way. You. The Tenketsu. Hinata said with shock, as she realized the level of mastery it took to close the Tenketsu so precisely. Neji grimaced as he punched Hinata away. Do you now see the difference? You are a loser, too blind to accept my offer to forfeit before you embarrassed yourself. But whatever Neji wanted to say after that, he silenced when Hinata stood up again. I will not go back. I will never give up. She looked up at Naruto. I will never let my team down, she smiled weakly. But despite her bravado, she coughed up another mouthful of blood. Neji's face was twisted from anger, and the fight became completely one-sided. No matter how hard Hinata tried, she could neither block nor dodge, and took one hit after another. You should have listened, Neji growled, as he hit Hinata in her face. I did, Hinata panted. I heard your pain. I heard your suffering. When did you give up on your dreams, cousin? Stop. Hayate shouted, as he saw Neji snap and move in with lethal intentions. But Neji was too close, and blood rained down on his khaki shirt as he lashed out with all his might. And Kiba caught Hinata, who now stood next to him. Neji looked straight into Naruto's face. Naruto had used the substitution jutsu to get Hinata out of peril. It had been his only concern. Blood ran down his chin, but it did not matter to him. Nothing mattered anymore. He felt nothing but rage. Nothing but a blinding, numbing, deafening desire to obliterate the white-eyed boy. How predictable. The main house's dog stepped in, Neji taunted, as he recovered from his surprise. Naruto's arm flashed forward, and grabbed Neji by his throat. Maybe death will cure you of your blindness, Naruto said, as his eyes got a crimson color, and his voice reduced to a low growl. He lifted Neji, who was now choking as Naruto's hand squeezed. Squeezed hard. Now die, human. Neji tried to struggle out of the Jinchuriki's grasp, but he was powerless. He felt his throat being crushed and frantically tried to break free. But somehow, the blonde boy's tenketsu would not close. The boy's chakra was too strong for the Hyuga to block. The only thing that saved Neji was that Hayate and Kakashi stepped in to halt Naruto's rampage. Naruto, calm down, Kakashi urged. Now, Naruto threw Neji away, like a ragdoll, but did not avert his eyes from the Hyuga. Stop this right now, Naruto-kun, Hayate said, no longer sounding sickly. Or I will disqualify you for interfering with the match of another. Naruto still did not avert his eyes from Neji, and ignore the two adults. You talked about fate. But know this. Your fate will be death, Naruto said with an intensity that made Neji shiver. And not even this slow referee or this pathetic excuse of a sensei will be able to save you. What was that? Neji thought confused, as Naruto turned away. Was he still holding back against Lee? And why didn't the Juken work? What was that monstrous chakra? Not that Naruto paid any attention to Neji's grimace, as he hurried to the stairs. Kurenai and Asuma carried down Hinata, who had lost her consciousness. Naruto, I will wait here, Kurenai said as they stood by the doors of the infirmary. The medics had moved with haste when they noticed that Neji had damaged Hinata's organs to such an extent that her heartbeat had become erratic. Kiba will have his match, support him. I will wait here in case the medics have any news. Kurenai-sensei. And control your temper, Kurenai added sharply. I understand why you did it, but Hayate could have disqualified you for interfering with another's duel. Naruto nodded, and though he was reluctant to do so, he walked back to the arena. Kankuro from Suna versus Azane from Iwa, Kiba said abruptly. How is she? He asked with concern in his voice. They said she will survive, but there is a lot of damage. Naruto said, while he tried to suppress his rage. And you? Healed, Naruto said, indifferent about his own injuries. Tenten and Neji had moved away, keeping some distance from Naruto. Neji still felt his throat ache from the force which Naruto had used while choking him. Gaara was staring at Naruto from across the arena, barely able to keep his insanity from reaching the surface. Temari and their Jonin-sensei looked very uncomfortable standing next to him. Similarly, Sasuke was staring at the Jinchuriki, and Kakashi could not blame him. Naruto still radiated a killing intent which would have scared of most shinobi, regardless of their ranks. Naruto was still too angry to properly pay attention, but he saw that Kankuro used a puppet to defeat his opponent. Or better, Azane attacked the person who she thought was Kankuro. The moment she came close, Kankuro grabbed her, and revealed that he was the puppet, while the real Kankuro emerged from the package the puppet had initially carried. No matter how Azane struggled, she could not break free. Finally, she yielded, too exhausted to continue trying. Shikamaru noticed that Kankuro was not looking very happy, as the puppet moved with a lot of difficulty. Though Kankuro proceeded, there was no happiness to be seen. The moment the match had ended, Kiba and Akamaru jumped down. There were only two genin left. He had to face Sasuke. Sasuke seemed as impatient as Kiba was. You sure about that dog? What is wrong with Akamaru being here? Kiba acts aggressively. If you care about it, you should have left it behind, Sasuke shrugged. Hayate shook his head. If you two can control your tempers, we can start, okay? Fine, Kiba growled. Let the last match begin, the coughing Jonin sighed. Kiba was already angered because of what Neji had done, and now Sasuke had the gall to look down on Akamaru. Here. Sasuke watched as Akamaru swallowed a food pill. What the? He's named Akamaru for a reason, Kiba smirked. Here we go, Akamaru. The now red and wild-looking dog jumped on Kiba's back as the latter crouched. Beast effect ninpu, Kiba growled, while Akamaru barked at the same time. Sasuke activated his Sharingan, when he saw two Kibas standing on top of each other. Under the effect of the beast-human bunshin, Akamaru and Kiba looked identical. Sasuke saw the chakra swirl around both the Inuzuka. Quadruped no jutsu, Kiba shouted, as they both lunged forward. With his Sharingan active, it was easy to see where he had to go in order to dodge, block, or counter the attack. But the sheer speed that the Inuzuka displayed left only the first option open. Naruto frowned. He had seen Kiba fight seriously a few times, but the quadruped no jutsu was new to him. But the speed was not sufficient to defeat the Uchiha, and Naruto doubted it would be a sound strategy to try to tire out Sasuke, as Kiba's jutsu seemed to consume a lot of chakra. This was something Kiba also recognized. Gatsuga. The Uchiha groaned when he was hit by one of the two tornado-like attacks. As Kiba landed, he looked back to figure out where Akamaru had gone to, and where the Uchiha had fallen. Despite the beast effect jutsu's improvements in his senses, the Gatsuga always left him disoriented for a few seconds. The moment where Kiba failed to keep the initiative gave Sasuke the chance he needed. With his Sharingan, he looked one of the two Kibas in the eyes, and knocked him out. 50% chance I get the right one. Not that it matters much. If I only have to fight one, I can dodge and outlast him, Sasuke thought. Though, it frustrated him that he, a genius from the mighty Uchiha clan, had to resort to such tactics to beat a loser like Kiba. But in his current condition, he had no other choice. And he had to win. Naruto sighed, as he saw his comrade fall to the ground. Sasuke's gamble had paid off, and he was lucky to have aimed it at the real Kiba. If had been Akamaru, Kiba could have taken Sasuke down because the latter had his guard down while he used the Sharingan. Uchiha Sasuke wins, Hayate proclaimed. Akamaru reverted to his real form and ran towards Kiba. I'll take him to the infirmary, Naruto said, as he landed next to his unconscious teammate. Sasuke looked at him. The person who had taken away that power he had enjoyed for a short while. Wait a moment, Hayate said. To all contenders who have earned the right to compete in the third round of the exams, congratulations on passing the preliminary round. Hokage-sama, Hayate bowed to give the word to Hiruzen, who had just appeared next to him. The finals will be in 1 month, Hiruzen announced. In front of everyone present at the central arena of Konoha, you will each show the strength of your countries. Use this 1-month break to heal your bodies, and train with diligence to prepare yourselves to face the opponents you have seen today. As for the matchups, these will be announced on the start of the finals. Hiruzen nodded at Naruto, so that he could take Kiba to the infirmary. I wish you all good luck, and look forward to see your efforts, Hiruzen concluded. He looked at Kakashi, who would have to use this time to redo the sealing technique on Sasuke. What happened? Kurenai demanded, as she saw Akamaru and Naruto come close, and the latter carrying the unconscious Kiba. Sasuke. Kiba had to fight him in the final match, and Sasuke used a genjutsu on him to knock him out. I see. I can fix that, she said. Release. Kiba groaned as he opened his eyes. What the? Where am I? He asked weakly. You lost, buddy, Naruto said softly. Sasuke knocked you out with a genjutsu. Illusion. Damn. That's cheap. Sorry, sensei, he added, realizing her speciality. It worked, Naruto shrugged. Kurenai had fetched a medic. Take him with you and give him some time to rest and recover. Yes, Kurenai-sama, the medic replied. As Kiba and Akamaru left, Naruto turned towards his sensei. Anything on Hinata? He asked with worry. Not yet. Kurenai sighed. After a few hours, finally a medic came to them. Strangely, Jiraiya walked next to the medic. Kurenai-sama, the medic bowed slightly. We have stabilized the situation for now, but Lady Hyuga will need to remain in the Konoha hospital for some time, to recover from her injuries. Is she awake? Naruto asks. How bad is it? She sleeps. The damage to her organs, especially her heart, was extensive, the medic frowned, not happy to be interrupted by the genin. Jiraiya nodded to the medic, who had looked at him for approval. Though it is early to say, as it will depend on her recovery, but we doubt if she can remain functioning as a shinobi. What? Naruto exclaimed weakly. Kurenai looked sad. Is this true, Jiraiya-sama? She asks. Jiraiya bowed his head slightly, and spoke with a soft and careful tone. It is the damage to her heart that worries me. I'm no specialist. But from what I see, I expect that she can live a normal life after this, but if she ever pushed her body to her limits again, it might become fatal. No, Naruto whispered. Not like this. She gave it all she had, and this is how it ends up. He said angrily. Jiraiya nodded. Though it is sad, this is how the world works, Naruto. Neji was far too strong for her. But what is worse, is that she must have seen the damage herself. And she still continued. Kurenai put a hand on Naruto's shoulder, stopping him from responding. Is there no doctor who can heal her? She asks. Not in Konoha, the medic admitted. There is one who might be able to do it, but she left our village years ago. That is why I came. Jiraiya added. Naruto, the situation in Konoha is currently dangerous for you, with both foreign and Konoha shinobi who have been startled by your growth. They will try to use this month to dispose of the threat they see in you, while the greater audience is still unaware of you, to avoid a larger incident that could happen at a later time. What do I care? Naruto responded angrily. Let them come. I will kill all of them. That is why I will take you with me, to retrieve the only person who can heal your teammate, Jiraiya countered. Jiraiya-sama. Do you mean? Kurenai realized. Yeah, she is the only one who can do such a thing, Jiraiya shrugged. I'd rather leave her be, but this situation should be dealt with. And knowing her money issues, she might cooperate. Naruto looked at the both of them. We will leave tomorrow at noon. I'll first escort you back to the Hyuga estate, gather your stuff and prepare for a 1-month journey, Jiraiya said. But, we will visit your friend before we leave, he said kindly. Don't worry Naruto, Kurenai added. Both Kiba and I will stay close. Lady Hyuga will be transported to the hospital this evening. The medic had looked a bit out of place, but decided to add something as well. Her life will not be in danger, and we will make sure she will not exhaust herself. Naruto sighed in defeat. All right Ero Sennin. For Hinata's sake, I will come with you. Don't look like that, it's not like I won't be training you during the time, Jiraiya frowned. All packed, and ready for his journey, Naruto left the Hyuga estate. Haruki and Akko were shocked to hear about Hinata's injuries, and how she got them. Even the normally calm and collected Haruki was visibly annoyed that one of the branch did such a thing. Coward, Haruki had said, his eyes angry even though his voice was calm. That boy is a year older, and can boast a talent which the clan has not seen in decades. And this is what he does with it. Akko had tried to calm him down, knowing that all this excitement was bad for Haruki's health. No Akko, this is not something I can keep quiet about. This will only increase the dissension between the main and the branch. Even if the main clan does not particularly care about Hinata-sama, they will still see it as an insult. Naruto frowned when he thought back at those words. Why was the main family always so unsatisfied with Hinata? Why did everyone seem to be against her? Naruto always saw his teammate train. She never complained. No matter what endeavor she had to take, she did it. On top of it, she was kind and gentle, traits that any leader should have. Just like the third Hokage. In Naruto's eyes, she was the strongest kunoichi of his generation, though he expected that she would never believe it if he told her that. So occupied with his thoughts, Naruto failed to spot the larger youth who just walked out of a building Naruto passed. Hey, look out where you walk, runt. The young man exclaimed, after Naruto almost bumped him over. Sorry, Naruto said with a soft and absent-sounding voice. What? The larger male stood closely to Naruto. Apologize properly, you moron. Just what he needed. Get lost, Naruto growled, not in the mood to be annoyed by someone older. He already struggled to keep his anger contained after what Neji had done, and now this guy reminded him of how he used to be bullied when he was little. The young man must have been 17 or 18 years old, and had a broad physique for someone of his age. Yet, despite his build, he was no shinobi. At least, Naruto did not see a head protector, nor did the young man seem to move like a shinobi. Still, he grabbed Naruto's shoulder when the latter tried to walk on. What's this? When did I say you could leave? He added with a loud voice, trying to push him back. No respect for someone without a clan. The young man saw that Naruto was a shinobi, and he knew that genin were not allowed to act against civilians. The young man smirked, and lashed out with his right fist. And screamed in pain when Naruto grabbed that fist. I told you to get lost. Naruto growled. He turned away, as he wanted to go to Hinata while he still got the chance. I suggest that you stop trying to do that, a feminine voice commanded. Naruto turned back and saw that the bully had drawn a knife, but Hyuga Hitomi stood next to him, along with 2 of her guards. Attacking shinobi of the leaf is a crime, she added softly but firm. You should walk away now, or I will have you brought to justice. The young man looked at her white eyes, saw her unmarked forehead, and knew of the Hyuga's reputation for strictness. He decided to get away while he had the chance. You could have dealt with that in a better way, Hitomi lightly scolded Naruto. I apologize, Hitomi-sama, he bowed. I assume you wanted to visit my daughter. Hitomi asked kindly. She has not yet woken up though. They continued walking to the hospital, the two guards at a respectful distance. I know, Naruto replied. But I have to leave today, so I just wanted to visit her while I can. I heard you are going to travel with Jiraiya-sama. Naruto blinked. Haruki-san keeps me informed regarding your missions and development, she explained. Jiraiya-sama asked me to join him on a search for some woman he knew who would be able to heal Hinata. Naruto frowned. And he wishes to take you away from Konoha, Hitomi guessed, after looking at his face. I cannot blame him. It seems you startled my cousin quite a bit. Not to mention the rest of our clan. As well as many others in Konoha. Even the main branch is in turmoil that you found a way to block our Juken. I don't care about them, Naruto replied, some of his anger returning to his voice. I will make Neji pay for what he did to Hinata. Control your emotions, Naruto, Hitomi said with strict voice. Though I understand your position, you should never forget who you are. Naruto looked down, reminded of the Kyuubi's lingering threat. But his anger was more powerful than the worry for his own life, something which Hitomi could see clearly. Why does it bother you so much what Neji did? Naruto frowned. He was like that guy from just now. Tormenting Hinata for things she could not help. He took out his own weakness on her. He would have killed her if I did not. Naruto, Hitomi warned him when the ground itself seemed to tremble due to the amounts of chakra the boy generated. Calm down. If you cannot control yourself, I cannot allow you to enter the hospital. Such outbursts of chakra are not allowed there. Naruto's shoulders slumped. Is it because he injured Hinata? She asks, convinced that her tone would sound innocent to his untrained ears. I guess, Naruto admitted. She is my teammate, my friend. One of the very few who know what I am, and despite that she still accepted me. Do you feel like you owe her? I once did. Naruto wondered if she could really read him that easily. Because of her, I got out of that hellish environment. Because of her, the Hyuga clan took me in, trained me, taught me. I sometimes wonder what I would have been like if I had not been able to escape the orphanages. Weak and stupid, I guess. And poorly fed, Hitomi softly chuckled. With your preference for ramen. Yeah, Haruki often told me I would be the smallest kid of my age if I only ate bad food, Naruto grinned weakly. So that would have made me weak, stupid, and short. You would never have been truly weak. Hitomi looked at him, as the boy looked around him with some wonder on his face. She could see he reconsidered his own life. Yet this is not something you owe the Hyuga, or Hinata, she said. You saved my daughter, more than once, and I will always remain thankful because of that. And Haruki often says you have more than earned your place in the clan, with all the work you do. I just did what I thought was right, Naruto shrugged. When it comes to Hinata, I think you go beyond just that, she remarked. They had arrived at the hospital, and though the nurse did not seem pleased with Naruto's presence, she could hardly argue against the wife of the Hyuga's clan leader. Naruto was shocked to see how small and fragile Hinata looked, as she was lying in her bed, asleep and connected to multiple instruments which monitored her health. She has not woken up yet, Hyuga-sama, the nurse said before she left Hitomi and Naruto alone. But her condition is stable and will improve quickly, Hyuga-sama. Our only concern is the damage to Hinata-sama's heart. The nurse bowed and left, and the guards closed the door and took their positions outside of the room. My poor daughter. Hitomi allowed herself a moment of weakness, as she wiped a strand of hair out of Hinata's face. Naruto felt too sad to say anything. Not that he knew what to say in the first place. He silently vowed to make Neji pay, before he killed him. I promise I will find someone who can completely heal Hinata again, Naruto finally managed. Hitomi nodded, grateful. And that would be that third time you saved the life of my daughter. No. If what Haruki said is true, it would be the fourth time. And that is not even considering everything else you did for us, she pondered. Any other person would not have kept it to himself, but had boasted about it. Any other person would be crushed by your burdens. I wish I knew how to repay you. They remained in silence. Naruto took a chair, while Hitomi sat on the edge of Hinata's bed. Then Naruto suddenly stood up, drawing Hitomi's attention away from Hinata as he walked towards the window and opened it. "I'll be right back," Naruto said softly, as he jumped out of the window of the third floor. True to his word, he returned a few seconds later, with a pale-faced Konohamaru on his back. She quickly followed after them. "I sent out a clone to fetch some flowers," Naruto explained. "The nurse would not let it in, because of her," he pointed at the cat. The clone then met Konohamaru outside, and decided to give the flowers to him, and dispel so I would know about the situation. "I am sorry to enter like this, Hyuga-sama," the boy bowed quickly. "I will leave immediately. Please stay." Hitomi smiled gently. "I heard about you before, from Hinata." Konohamaru mustered the courage to properly look at the unconscious Hinata, and his pale face got a tint of green on it as well. I. He stumbled. "Hinata will heal," Hitomi assured the pale boy. Konohamaru gave her the flowers. And nodded to Naruto, who gave him a purse filled with coins when Hitomi turned away to put the flowers into a vase. Outside, the clone had asked Konohamaru if he would be willing to make sure the flowers on Hinata's room would be refreshed regularly. "Naruto Nichan can't do it himself, when he is on a mission, so I will do my duty," the determined boy thought. "It'll be my first mission." A little while after, one of the guards knocked at the door. "Hitomi-sama, Jiraiya-sama has arrived and wishes to enter." "It is all right, let him in," she ordered. "Jiraiya-sama," Hitomi bowed. "Hitomi-sama," Jiraiya bowed back, somewhat embarrassed that a Hyuga would act so humbly towards another, especially one of her standing. "Naruto, are you ready to go? And what are you doing here, squirt?" he added, frowning when he saw Konohamaru. "Konohamaru helped me to smuggle some flowers in," Naruto shrugged. "And yes," he sighed, "I am ready to leave." "Good," Jiraiya added on a grim tone. "Hitomi-sama, we will return within the month. Please make sure Hinata does not get stressed too much. I've arranged that Hinata's sensei and teammate will keep an eye out for her safety as well. Kiba will be brought to the room next to us, under the pretense that he received injury during the exams as well. I'll stick around too," she mumbled softly. "And the other issue?" Naruto asks. He did not want to mention Gaara to the others. "Several Jonin have been called back to Konoha, and Yugito has also sworn to help defending Konoha regarding this case," Jiraiya replied. "Konoha will be guarded during our absence. Do you think Tsunade-sama will remain in Konoha, after you brought her here?" Hitomi asks. Jiraiya blinked. Though he figured he should not have been surprised, as she had always been exceedingly sharp. "I do not know what my former teammate is planning, but I hope that she is willing to stay during the remainder of the exam." Hitomi nodded, understanding that, even if she would not be willing to take action, the presence of two of the Sannin would be enough to scare of most attackers. Hitomi had seen an unusual degree of agitation due to the exams, though she did not completely know what was going on. It seemed like there was a plot involving the last of the Sannin. "Then I wish the two of you good luck. For the sake of Konoha. But even more for the sake of my daughter. We will make sure of it," Naruto promised with a harsh voice. "Even if we have to drag her back to Konoha, she will heal Hinata." She jumped up on Naruto's shoulder, and whispered. "Don't worry about your girl, Two-Leg. I'll stay and guard her. No treacherous Two-Leg will get near her, this I swear." "Thanks, Chi," he petted her on her head. Chapter 25. Tsunade Retrieval. "So, Ero Sennin, who is this woman we are looking for? Not just some genius doctor, I take it?" Naruto asked when he and Jiraiya had left Konoha. "Ah, how should I answer that one?" Jiraiya frowned. "She was my teammate, all the way back from when I was a genin. Just like that snake. Yes, Orochimaru was our teammate. And Hokage-sama was our sensei," Jiraiya nodded. "Eventually the three of us grew out to become quite strong and our fame grew along. There were wars going on in that time. That's when we got our nickname." Jiraiya smiled when he thought back at those times. "As for Tsunade, her strength is comparable to my own. Besides that, she is known as the world's best medical nin. Some say she cheats death," he laughed. "She is that good?" "No. Unfortunately people will always die, Naruto," Jiraiya sighed. But she can do far more than any other doctor in Konoha. She will be able to heal Hinata, if we can get her back. Why did she abandon Konoha? Some people died. She could not save them, and became frustrated. Traumatized, Jiraiya answered, carefully. Though she did not actually abandon Konoha as a missing nin, she did get permission to take an extended leave. For a period as long as she wanted, on several conditions. Which basically means that she is on retirement. So how do we convince her to go back? And how do we even find her? Well, one of the conditions was that she should stay in the country of fire. Though, I do not intend our search to cover the entire nation. It is not necessary, as I have a general idea of where she is. I am known for my information network, you know. I thought that only covered your perverted activities, like those poorly written books of yours. Naruto frowned. There will be a day when you realize my genius writing skills, Jiraiya replied with some faked outrage. And then I will not give you a signed copy. Naruto laughed. Just tell me where to go, oh almighty pervert. A break already? Naruto frowned. We just left an hour ago. I arranged a third team member for this mission, and we will meet on this spot, Jiraiya replied. So while we wait, how did you training go? Gamakichi said you struggled with the third step now. Jiraiya sat down on a log. Apparently, a large storm had hit this area earlier that year, as many trees in that part of the forest were uprooted. Second phase was a bit odd, because I had to move the air inside the ball, instead of the water. But with some help from Hinata I managed to blow up that ball as well. Actually, the rotation was more difficult than applying to force needed to burst it, Naruto added. And the third step? Well, it is more difficult, because it constantly blows up. Or if I don't put in enough chakra, it dissolves, Naruto admitted. Keeping a balance between power and stability seems to be the trick, but I did not have enough time to practice, with the Chunin exams coming up. Jiraiya nodded thoughtfully. Though he did not want to reveal how impressed he was with the genin's progress, he decided it was best to inform Naruto. These exercises are the basic of AA rank jutsu, developed by the fourth Hokage, Jiraiya said. He named it the Rasengan. The Yondaime. Naruto frowned. Why did you? The Yondaime Hokage was my student, Jiraiya cut him off. And he taught me that jutsu. Why the face? Jiraiya added when he looked at Naruto. You thought that bastard Fuinjutsu too? Naruto scowled. Jiraiya sighed. You still blame him for what he did to you. This, Naruto pointed at his stomach, is pretty hard to ignore, isn't it? I told you, the fourth had no other option. Jiraiya said softly. He was about the most kind and gentle person I've known. Not the kind who did something like that without reason. I've explained how you were the only person around who was capable of the task, right? Though reluctant, Naruto nodded. Well then, just continue with the third step for now, Jiraiya changed subjects on a clear tone. And how is your study in Fuinjutsu going? Basically, pretty good, Naruto said with some pride. I've improved the infernal seal, and found new ways to attach seals to other people by using cage bunshin. I saw that, Jiraiya said with some enthusiasm. You embedded those weight seals in the bunshin, and when Lee touched them, the seal got stuck to him. Yeah, that's the basics of it. The moment the bunshin is hit, it puts all of its remaining chakra into the area which is hit and applies the seal on whatever hits it. So it only works with taijutsu. And I can only do this with simple seals, because of the response time. Every jutsu has its limitations, Jiraiya said, but still, it is a pretty impressive combination. There are a few harder ones. I know I have wind and fire affinities, so I focus on the Fuinjutsu requiring either those or pure chakra, Naruto frowned. But this one is still virtually impossible for me. The Flying Thunder God, or Hiraishin no Jutsu as the notes called it. The description and theory from the book say that it is an awesome jutsu. But even though I have spent a lot of time on training it, I just can't get it right. Silence. Ero Sennin. Naruto acts in surprise, when he, after a moment of silence, noticed the perplexed look on Jiraiya's face. You tried to learn the Hiraishin no Jutsu. How? Jiraiya managed to say. One of the scrolls had a book sealed inside it. I found it last year or so. Really complex seal, but even though I know for sure I created it the right way, it is still extremely inaccurate. Was it hard for you to create that seal? Naruto thought deeply. Yeah, at first it was nearly impossible. How so? Naruto. The basics of that jutsu. It requires Raiden mastery. It requires a certain mastery over the lightning element. Lightning. But the book. It was a notebook. Not meant for teaching others, was it? Jiraiya guessed. Well, a lot of the Uzumaki scrolls are a mess, so it isn't really surprising that you didn't notice the difference. Seems like you inherited that lack of systematic thinking from your clan. A notebook. But wait. Does that mean I messed up the seal because I put ordinary chakra in it, instead of lightning? The jutsu works with regular chakra, but the creation of those seals can only be done with Raiden. That is why you were inaccurate, Naruto. To be honest, you should not even have been able to do that. Naruto scratched the back of his head. So I was training my third element or something. He guessed. Jiraiya rummaged in his pockets, and after some grumbling in his pack as well. Here, he finally said, handing Naruto a handful of chakra papers. Charge it with the same kind of chakra as you use for the Hiraishin seals. The first attempts only split or burned the papers, but the 11th piece of paper wrinkled. Jiraiya whistled, impressed. You sure are one crazy kid. What? Naruto failed to understand, and thought Jiraiya ridiculed him. Even most Jonin have trouble enough with mastering two nature transformations. Jiraiya said, his amazement now obvious to Naruto. And you unknowingly were training for a third. Naruto was too embarrassed by the praise to know what to reply. I was thinking of helping you train the Rasengan. But I guess training your lightning nature would be easier to do while traveling. Just grab some leaves, and try to repeat what you just did with the piece of chakra paper. Can I have those back, by the way? Jiraiya pointed at the remaining pieces of chakra paper. Those things are rather expensive, and not to mention quite useful too. Impossible. To think he is starting to learn both of Minato's signature moves at this age. No wonder that Hyuga guardian of his has such respect of him. Stupid raw talent like this is a rare thing to see, Jiraiya thought. Even without proper education Naruto would have been a remarkable shinobi. And the Hyuga only made him stronger. That Haruki was right. Teaching him to control that power would be enough to make him a monster, literally, without even taking his jutsus into account. While waiting for their contact to appear, Naruto dispatched a dozen clones to gather leaves and start practicing. Meanwhile, he summoned Gamazu. The wrinkly silver-skinned toad was as absent-minded as always, and it took him a few seconds before he realized he was summoned. Naruto-chan. The horse-sized toad acts. And Jiraiya-chan too. Good morning, Gamazu-san, Naruto bowed. Jiraiya nodded with a smile, keeping silent because he knew the overly serious toad did not particularly like him. Why was I summoned? Gamazu asked curiously. Jiraiya-sensei figured out why my Hiraishin seals were inaccurate. Right, those things should have worked according to theory. So what was the problem? Well, they required Raiden mastery. Lightning. Let's see. The toad mused. That would make sense now you think about it. Use lightning to connect 2 points, and set up a pathway to travel on. Naruto could not understand what the elder toad was mumbling about. As usual Gamazu was lost on his own train of thoughts. But wait, the toad suddenly opened his eyes. That would mean you were using a third element already. Jiraiya-sensei says so. Naruto shrugged. And he didn't even know, Jiraiya smirked. Very interesting. Highly impressive for a youngster like yourself, Gamazu complimented Naruto. That would also mean you could learn the Raiden-based Fuinjutsu. Perhaps I should tell Fukasaku-sama and Shima-sama about your progress, the toad looked at Jiraiya. That would be a good idea, Jiraiya agreed. We are getting way ahead of schedule now, so perhaps we could start the plan a year earlier. I am sure they will be pleased to hear about Naruto-chan's progress, Gamazu nodded. That would mean we would welcome you to Myobokuzen soon. Mount what? Naruto asked Jiraiya after the toad cancelled his summoning. Mount Myoboku is the sacred place where the toads live, Jiraiya explained. The land of the toads. In time, you will be training there, so you can learn senjutsu. Naruto frowned. That is what you talked about when Yugito-san spoke about ways to keep the Kyuubi under control, right? Naruto remembered. Senjutsu is the reason why the Sannin are known throughout the world, Jiraiya admitted. If you are capable of learning it, your power should expand quite a bit. But I warn you, it is extremely difficult to gather and control Sage Chakra. Not to mention that it is very dangerous. But that will be explained to you when the time is right. For now, we should welcome our companion. She is getting close now. And indeed, after a minute or so, a cloaked figure appeared at the clearing where Naruto and Jiraiya were waiting. How did it go? Jiraiya asks. I got delayed a bit, the cloaked figure answered. Anko-san ordered me to take a detour in order to make sure I did not meet anyone else. Karen removed her cloak. But after that, it was pretty easy to find the two of you. You both have quite a noticeable amount of chakra, she added. Karen. Naruto exclaimed. Then he laughed. Finding that Tsunade woman will be easy now. Finding her is not the hard part of this mission, Naruto. Jiraiya remembered him. The part where we convince her to go with us is. She was bored. So very, very bored. Her teammates were gone, training either with their sensei, or with their clan. And she, the one who failed the exam, was left behind. Alone, as even her parents were busy with their jobs. Typically for me to fail when I have to fight, Sakura grumbled, while she kicked a pebble away. She wandered through town, tired of her parents' patronizing. But even though her wounded body had healed, her pride had yet a long way to go. Hey, billboard brow. Someone called her. Sakura looked behind her, and found that she had passed the Yamanaka flower shop without even looking. What? Ino pig? Sakura replied, not completely unfriendly. Is everything alright? Ino asked with a worried face. Sakura sighed. I'm fine, just bored. Sasuke has left with Kakashi, and they didn't say a word. Shino does not talk much either, but he at least said that he would be training with his own clan. So I'd almost long back to the times I still had Naruto around. No training or mission, while pretty much everyone else is busy. Ino deduced. Yeah, that must be boring. You know, I'll ask Asuma-sensei if you can join us. Choji helps training Shikamaru and me as well, she explained. Are you sure that? I need a target to practice my jutsu anyways, Ino cut her off. Him again. She frowned. What? Sakura looked at the boy who had walked towards the flower shop. For the last 2 weeks, he buys flowers every other day, Ino explained. Hey, kid, buying flowers for your girlfriend again? She asked loudly. Konohamaru shrugged at the elder girl's words. No, why should I? He remarked. This is my duty to Nichin, he added with some pride. You buy flowers for you brother? Sakura wondered. No, Konohamaru sighed, as if he was amazed the older girls were so stupid. Nichin asked me to make sure she has fresh flowers, he held up a small frog-shaped wallet. That is Naruto's wallet, Sakura recognized Gama-chan. You know Nichin as well. Konohamaru became more enthusiastic. We were his classmates at the academy, Ino explained, before Sakura would have to explain that she had been his teammate for a while. Konohamaru nodded. Why would Naruto ask you to buy flowers? And for who? Sakura wondered. Hinata-sama is injured, Konohamaru said softly. And fresh flowers keep that hospital stench from her room. Nichin said she loves flowers, so he asked me to take care of it, while he is out on his mission. Ino and Sakura watched as the boy bought a bouquet of flowers, even haggling off some of the price, something which seemed to amuse Ino's mother who helped him. The boy happily said goodbye, and sprinted off towards the hospital, though careful not to spoil the flowers. Konohamaru-chan sure is becoming as dependable as his grandfather, Ino's mother smiled. Who? Ino asked bluntly. Konohamaru is the Hokage's grandson, she explained. Ino looked at the surprised Sakura. Well, I have this morning off, why don't we visit Hinata as well? Ino asked Sakura. I'm sure she must be as bored than we are. Wow, so many visitors for me. Kiba smirked, when he saw the two kunoichi in the hallway. Akamaru spurted towards them, barking happily. What are you doing here? Ino frowned. Asuma-sensei told me you lost, but not that you were wounded like that. Kiba pointed the bandages covering his chest and left arm. I had a little accident, he said, though he didn't seem to take it very seriously. So I am not that lucky. We brought these for Hinata, Sakura admitted, holding the flowers they brought along. Kiba smiled. She'll be happy with those. Did the nurse tell you how she is doing? No, all she said was that we should keep it short and that we should not upset her, Ino said. Right, I'll go with you, but we should wait a little. Her mother and Kurenai-sensei are with her right now, Kiba said. And the brat just left after delivering new flowers. I should have trained my sis to do such things, he laughed. Don't worry, we'll wait till they leave, Ko-san, Kiba said against the Hyuga guard who stood outside of Hinata's room. What's with the guard? Sakura asks. Hinata is heir to the Hyuga clan, and her mother is its leader's wife. So security is to be expected, right? Kiba shrugged. After a few minutes, Kurenai and Hitomi left Hinata's room. Don't worry, sensei, we will keep it short, Kiba promised, after bowing to Hitomi. Sakura wondered how the older Hyuga woman managed to get such respect from Kiba, who normally barely paid any attention to formalities, just like the rest of his clan. Sakura. Ino. Hinata said happily, though her voice was still weak. Hinata. Sakura could not keep the surprise out of her voice. How are you doing? I am. Hinata has improved a great deal, but she still needs time to heal, Kiba answered for her. That rotten bastard caused quite some damage. Please. Hinata pleaded. I'll be fine. Kurenai-sensei told me I was recovering faster than the doctor had expected. We brought some flowers for you, Ino tried to lighten the mood. Hinata smiled weakly, and thanked Ino as the latter put the flowers in a vase, next to the new flowers Konohamaru had brought earlier. So, tell us how you got Naruto to give you flowers like that, Ino smirked. The pale Hyuga blushed as much as she could under the current conditions. I don't know, she squeaked weakly. Naruto-kun had already left Konoha when I woke up, and Konohamaru-chan says he is just following orders, but never said who. So he makes sure you get flowers but does not visit you. I knew he was shy, but that is a bit extreme, Ino said, disappointed that she did not find a new scoop. Though Konohamaru-chan said something about a mission. Naruto left Konoha for training, Kiba said, somewhat annoyed by the prodding of the eternally inquisitive blonde. Him too. Sakura grumbled. Men and their training. They could at least stick with their team a bit. Wait, Kurenai-sensei was just here. Who is Naruto training with? Kurenai-sensei told me that he is trained by Jiraiya-sama now, Hinata smiled faintly. I am sure Naruto-kun will return stronger than ever. How is your training going, Ino-san? After a detailed description of Ino's suffering with her training regime, they discussed the performance of all the others. They agreed that the genin from Suna were particularly scary, Gaara especially. Though Naruto impressed me most, Ino admitted. That Rock Lee was incredibly fast. But Naruto still seemed to be holding back. I really wonder where his limits lie. It's as if he has become a completely different person, she smiled faintly. What? She added, upon the look of the others. Naruto is. Sakura started. Naruto is rather exceptional as a shinobi. I always thought Sasuke was the top of our class. But it looks like Naruto has never been serious. Naruto-kun trains very hard, Hinata added. Yeah, unlike that stuck-up Uchiha Tem, Naruto was not gifted with special powers, but he works harder than any other. And now, aside from Gaara, I doubt there is anyone capable of fighting him on equal terms, Kiba remarked, proud of his teammate. Proud enough to risk 2 near-deathly glares. Which is all the more reason for Sasuke to train even harder, Sakura sighed. He seems to be obsessed with Naruto, especially after his defeat. Defeat? Ino asked sharply. Is that rumor true? About the reason why Naruto left Team 7? Did he really attack Sasuke-kun? It was the other way around, Kiba grumbled. Naruto doesn't attack people without being provoked. Sakura nodded reluctantly, and Hinata remained silent in her hospital bed. Why? Ino asked softly. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke-kun is dreaming to become the strongest. And Naruto just seemed to surpass him with such ease, Sakura said carefully. It infuriated Sasuke-kun. During our mission in the Land of Waves, Naruto defeated someone, but for some odd reason he refused to kill that person. Sasuke wanted to do what Naruto refused, to finish the job, and he attacked even though Naruto stood in between. Pretty stupid, Kiba remarked. If you ask me, that Uchiha's pride is out of control. He was always acting like he was superior to everyone. Calling me the dead last. All of the time. He added darkly, never forgetting his grudge. A nurse opened the door, and looked annoyed. Hyuga-sama needs to take her rest. Return tomorrow if you want, but not more than 3 visitors at a time. Under the gaze of the stern-looking woman, the genin quickly left after saying goodbye to Hinata. Hiba returned to his own room, though Sakura wondered why he was there. Hiba did not move like he was injured at all. Ino. Sakura. Another female voice called them just after they left the hospital. Tenten walked towards them. You've visited someone too? Yes, we have just been to Hinata, Ino said. And you? I just visited Lee with Guy-sensei, the tomboyish Kunoichi said. Though Lee should be able to leave the hospital in a few days, she added with a smile. Thank God, because now that I'm all alone, Guy-sensei is focusing the training schedule completely on me, and training has become hell on earth. What about Neji-san? Sakura frowned. Tenten stopped smiling. He is training with his father, at the Hyuga estate. Guy-sensei. Neji promised Guy-sensei not to lose his head over the stuff between the main and branch families. Guy-sensei was pretty disappointed after. Well, you know. She gestured in the direction from where Sakura and Ino came. Sakura and Ino nodded. So I guess sensei doesn't really mind that Neji trains on his own, Tenten concluded. Even if he would never admit such a thing. It wouldn't be youthful, I suppose. Well, I sure as hell hope I don't have to face Neji in the finals, Ino remarked, shuddering lightly. I think that Gaara is worse, Tenten frowned. Or Naruto. I have never seen Lee move like that, and still Naruto outmatched him like that. Petty sad that Lee, even after he overburdened his own body like that, still lost. But I just can't believe how Naruto defeated him. It was just awesome. Tenten could not hold her admiration out of her voice. We can't all win, Sakura said, half to herself. Tenten smiled. Yeah, you are right. Well, I must go now. Got to fetch some weapons from my dad's place before I resume training again. I don't want Guy-sensei to go looking for me again. UGHH. I wish Kiba-kun was here, Karen complained, not for the first time. All you two can do is train, train, and train. Oh, and let's not forget that you also train. It's infuriating. Do you miss Kiba that badly? Jiraiya smirked, before getting another hit from the embarrassed Kunoichi. Jiraiya had quickly found out that Karen was sensitive to jokes involving Kiba or Akamaru. The joke was not detected by Naruto, who usually pestered Karen just as much as the old man did. Something which amused Jiraiya a great deal, because the genin himself was totally blind towards the affections others had to him. It still doesn't work, Naruto said with some frustration. Even after Jiraiya had given him hints on how to improve the third step of his training for the Rasengan, Naruto still kept losing control of his chakra. Jiraiya noticed that the Kyuubi's influence had been the root of the problem, and focused the training on the mastery of Naruto's lightning release. Jiraiya suspected that Naruto first had to resolve the whole situation with Neji, before he could complete the Rasengan. Luckily, Naruto had more success with the lightning release, now being able to quickly wrinkle leaves within seconds, while the splitting or burning of leaves by accident occurred less frequent now, indicating that his control was improving with leaps and bounds. Well, be happy that things don't go easy, Jiraiya said cheerfully. The more work you put into it, the greater the satisfaction will be once you have success. Crazy old goat, Karen grumbled. Well, this town doesn't seem to have any shinobi in it that possesses a similar level of chakra as you do. Jiraiya frowned. Are you sure? My sources said that she was supposed to be here. Well, the only person who is noticeable has chakra at the level of low jonin, maybe high chunin, Karen replied. The others are all too weak. Jiraiya scratched his chin. Well, perhaps we should see that person. I might be possible that Tsunade is suppressing or masking her power in order to avoid detection. To do that continuously ever since we arrived here last night. That would be impossible, Karen frowned. That Jonin-level person also tries to hide, but still slips up from time to time. Everyone does that. Jiraiya remembered that Tsunade was being followed by Shizune. I know Tsunade had one person close to her. She might have been trained by Tsunade, and be the one with that Jonin-level chakra. Then we must seek her out, Naruto remarked dryly. Besides, getting into a town, after over 2 weeks of living in the wild, would be nice as well. Though it was against Jiraiya's nature, as he loved a little comfort, the trio had stayed out of the towns they had passed on their journey. Jiraiya thought it would be better to avoid detection. Despite the measures they had taken, Jiraiya agreed with his sensei's wish to not make their location public knowledge. With the threats that Konoha was facing, it would be better if no one knew about their exact location. But Jiraiya believed that this was the place where Tsunade should be. The other two places had been empty, so they had to be here. No choice but to enter the town, and follow Karen's lead. The latter was very serious about it, as Jiraiya had promised that he would arrange it that she could stay in Konoha if the mission was successful. And she was quite determined to stick close to Kiba. Are you sure we should be eating like this, Tsunade-sama? Shizune hesitated. Sure, why not? Well, we do have a lot of debts at the moment, Shizune whispered, looking around at the expensive restaurant. Meh, I finally won something, so what's wrong with a little celebration? Usually bad things happen when I win, right? Shizune nodded. But today was fine, Tsunade continued. Now I am just going to drink it all away, and we leave this town tomorrow, alright? Even Taunton was a bit distressed by Tsunade's attitude. Even the pig recognized the woman's unrest. Even though Shizune had always been a level-headed and a rational thinker, she tended to agree with the pig. Tsunade-sama, why are you so agitated? Tsunade frowned. Drink. You are always so serious, you should drink a little. Come on. Drink. Shizune shook her head, but before she could respond, Tsunade's head jerked up, and the elder woman stared at the entrance of the restaurant. What? From this distance, I can sense two chakras, though one is masked so well I can hardly recognize it. Good work, Karen-chan, Jiraiya said. Now, let's go inside before she runs. I hope she is worth the effort. Naruto frowned, upon hearing that the target would try to flee. Jiraiya knew how Naruto thought about running away. She is a great ninja, Jiraiya replied. And a great beauty as well. If she's your age. The three of them entered, and found that the restaurant was quite luxurious. As it neared the time where even the establishments of this reputation would close, the restaurant was mostly empty. In the back, two women and a pig sat at a table. One looked at the door, and her face turned from a look of surprise into one of annoyance. Tsunade Heim. Jiraiya called out towards the blonde-haired woman. Naruto was somewhat surprised that the woman, who was supposed to be of Jiraiya's age, actually looked like she was in her early 30s. The light-skinned woman had brown eyes, and straight blonde hair. Naruto smirked that for once, Jiraiya's exaggeration was not as bad as usual. Though, this appearance was obviously not how she really looked like. Jiraiya, the woman replied sour. And Shizune is here as well, I barely recognized you. Jiraiya exclaimed. That little girl I once knew really changed into a beautiful young woman. The slender woman with black eyes and hair blushed slightly at the compliment, and bowed her head. Jiraiya-sama. Compared to Tsunade's extremely large bust, Naruto thought that Shizune looked a little more normal. Besides, the alerted look in her eyes, along with the warning from Karen earlier, gave Naruto the impression that the fair-skinned woman was dangerous. Keep your flattering to yourself, Tsunade snarled. Why are you here? And why did you bring that along with you? She looked at Naruto. Karen frowned. Are you always that rude, or only when you are drunk? Jiraiya tried to laugh it off, knowing Tsunade's temper was especially perilous when a large quantity of alcohol was mixed in. He is Uzumaki Naruto, he said, putting emphasis on the he. And this is Karen, a girl gifted with a sensory ability, who we picked up while we were searching for you, he lied. Who cares? The big-breasted drunk said bluntly. Why are you here? Me. Jiraiya asks. No particular reason, I'm here because Naruto needs you. You help him, she said, not interested. Our sensei, or whoever. I am done. Someone got hurt badly during the exams, Jiraiya explained, not listening to her refusal. And you are the only one capable of completely healing her. I have long stopped doing those things, she shrugged. Not interested, just get out. Perhaps we should. Naruto cutting off Jiraiya, who wanted to continue in his attempt to convince Tsunade. Jiraiya-sensei, Did we really waste all that time on this old hag? She seems like a useless drunk to me. Completely worthless. You just shut up, you little brat, Tsunade threatened Naruto. Or I will do it for you. Naruto shrugged. You're probably too drunk to even hit me, he said with a cold voice. Besides, you're running away. Why would anyone fear a coward like you? Jiraiya sighed. Naruto, calm down. Tsunade, the girl who got injured is Hyuga Hinata, the heir of her clan. If you save her, I'm sure they could help you a bit with your financial issues. Shizune looked hopeful, but Tsunade scoffed. Think you can buy me off, Jiraiya? And then what? When I fix one person, everyone will chase me again. I told you, I have had enough. I have seen too much. Jiraiya rubbed his forehead, knowing Tsunade's history better than most. But Naruto was oblivious to that, not that Jiraiya thought that Naruto would have cared if he did know. So you just run away. And this is one of the great Sannin. Naruto sneered. Pitiful. Even that Orochimaru was more of shinobi than this old bachan is, sensei. Tsunade's eyes narrowed. What would you know about us, brat? Naruto met Orochimaru during the same exam. Jiraiya cut her off. Sensei is worried about his presence, as well as the presence of an unstable Jinchuriki from Suna. Though Hinata is our prime reason we came, we also hope that. Then you thought wrong. Tsunade exclaimed. I told you, and that old goat himself as well, that I was done with healing, and done with fighting. Get out, and don't make me warn you again. Suddenly she released an amount of chakra which startled Karen, Shizune, and Taunton the pig. But Naruto laughed at her. As if her chakra was a joke to him. In fact, it was actually funny to him. Then again, no one had ever tried to scare him with such methods before. Really, bachan? Naruto mocked her. Trying to scare us with a tiny bit of chakra. Are you really that senile? Naruto, Jiraiya said sharply. Stop provoking her. You damned brat. Tsunade was too drunk and agitated to restrain her anger any longer. You could not even make me serious, even if you were a monster. An old woman who was too busy to run away from her regrets. Naruto smirked. What do you know about regret? Tsunade growled as she stood up and grabbed Naruto by his shirt. Though she nearly lifted him from the ground, Naruto just looked her in her eyes. If you know what I am, you retard, you should know I have my fair share of regrets as well, he said coldly. Tsunade-sama, don't. Not here. Shizune tried to interfere. Tsunade noticed the waiter, who was too scared to speak up. Fine, we'll take this outside. Now, she said as she dropped Naruto back on his feet. Tsunade-sama, please don't, Shizune pleaded. Jiraiya put his hand on the young woman's shoulder, shaking his head. It is no use at this point, trust me. Tsunade, I don't mind you having a little duel with Naruto. But I will not allow you to endanger his life. So keep it together, unless you want to fight me as well, he added darkly. Tsunade knew enough about her old teammate that he was not the type to make baseless threats. She nodded once, acknowledging his conditions. Don't worry sensei, Naruto said indifferently. All I have to do is make the old bat go serious, right? You better come with us when you do, he added, looking at Tsunade. You really are a stupid brat, aren't you? Tsunade grumbled. Fine then, but if you lose, you pay me 250.000 ryo. Shizune grimaced as she saw Tsunade's reckless gambling abilities kick in again. In the empty alley behind the restaurant, Tsunade and Naruto stood, facing each other. Jiraiya stood next to the back door, while Karen and Shizune, who tightly squeezed Taunton in her arms, stood in the doorway. I'd rather be a stupid brat than a coward, Naruto goaded her. Successfully, as Tsunade punched the ground in front of her, creating a large fissure in the ground. That surprised Naruto a little. Impressive physical strength, way beyond that of Gai-sensei, got to keep out of her hands, though she does not seem very quick, Naruto analyzed the situation. You know, all I ask is you saving my friend's life, Naruto said casually, wanting to create the impression that he was not impressed at all. No need to risk your life for something like that, right? What do I care about some retarded noble? Jiraiya slapped his own face. Insulting Hinata was the last thing she should have done. Naruto lost any pretense of restraint. No one would insult his friends and get away with it. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. He growled. Tsunade was somewhat surprised that a genin of his age could create such a large fireball, but she just smacked it away with her chakra-imbued hand. Futon. Rinkuden, the boy followed up, before Tsunade could launch a counterattack. Contrary to the rather blunt fire-based attack, this jutsu fired a barrage of razor-sharp bullets of wind chakra. Tsunade dodged, and saw the attack was strong enough to damage the street substantially. Though not to the extent as the gap she just made, but she was impressed that the boy was capable of two elements at his age. Kaden and Futon. She asked Jiraiya, looking away for a moment. Raiden. Wave of paralysis, Naruto replied. Impressive, but still not enough, Tsunade shrugged, when the attack failed to reach her. Though, she noticed that she had become more careful now. 3 elements is insane for mere genin. What has Jiraiya been doing with him? She mused. Wait, Uzumaki. No way, he couldn't be that brat's. Naruto was a little disappointed that his jutsu had failed, but it was just distraction anyway. Fire barrier, he said calmly, activating the 4 corners he had just created. Tsunade looked around. And Fuinjutsu as well, she whispered to herself. Let's see how strong. To her surprise, it took her 5 hits to shatter the barrier, while she had to heal her own hand due to the burns she sustained. But still not enough, she said to the frowning boy. Perhaps you don't really care about that girl of yours. She taunted him. Infernal seal, Naruto said, jumping away from Tsunade without performing any hand seals. But not before she saw the boy's crimson eyes. This distracted her for a precious moment. Somehow, there was a seal on Tsunade's hand, the one she just broke the barrier with. With a single move of Naruto's hand, the seal exploded, creating a small crater in the alley. Tsunade-sama, Shizune shouted, wanting to step forward. But Jiraiya stopped her. She is fine, he assured her. Despite the moment of distraction, Tsunade had noticed the seal right before it exploded. But it had cost her a significant amount of chakra to shield herself from the flames. She's not taking you seriously, the fox smirked. Shut up, Naruto shouted. Don't distract me now, or do you want to get killed? Idiot. You challenged her, but you are too weak to do it. Do you want that white-eyed fool to die, because you failed here? You should know you are no match for her, or that old pervert that acts as your teacher now. Not without my chakra. I won't fail, so get lost. Such anger, the fox smirked. Perhaps I should help you a little. And with a little help, you might actually kill that big-breasted cow, and fall into despair after you realize what you have just done, the fox thought by himself. And taking revenge on those senju would also be amusing. Tsunade had to admit she was impressed that the brat had forced her to use that much chakra. This certainly was not a simple game anymore. She had wanted to use the boy's petulance to avoid the lecture Jiraiya had prepared for her. Of the latter she had no doubt. He always did love to lecture others. But she started to wonder if this course of action led her to more trouble than a stupid lecture. What the? Tsunade whispered. As the smoke from the explosion lifted, she saw the boy standing in front of her, surrounded by a cloak made from an ominous crimson chakra. Naruto howled as he jumped forwards, dodging Tsunade's fist, and smacking her into the wall of the restaurant. These levels of chakra, a somewhat dazed Tsunade mumbled. As much as she hated it, she would have to get serious. Or she might get really injured. Naruto, now completely clad in crimson chakra, tried to hit her again. This time, Tsunade was not holding back, and dodged the genin's fist. Catching his arm, she wanted to return him a few favors, but Jiraiya stepped in. Jiraiya smacked Naruto on the head, while he held a piece of paper in his hand. As the red chakra disappeared, Naruto fell down to the ground, unconscious. He is fine, Jiraiya said to Karen, who ran forwards after the fight had ended. I only knocked him out. But I guess we should leave this place, after what you 2 idiots did here. He looked at the ruined building behind Tsunade. How dangerous is he? Tsunade asks. Shizune and Karen looked after Naruto, trying to speed up his recovery. Let's see. Jiraiya smiled. Large amounts of chakra, and equally great stamina. He has the determination and talent to learn fast, and had 2 nature affinities, and trains a 3rd element. I'd say he is already close to the level of Jonin, in terms of ability. But the origin of his strength is also a danger. My grandmother was like him, Tsunade whispered. But even she always said that it was a constant struggle to keep control. Yes, Jiraiya admitted, happy that his old teammate had sobered up a little. Naruto had a rough life, and had enough reason to lose control and give in to the demon's hatred. But he did not. He has a very strong personality. Hell, I'd say he would make a great leader if he manages to shake off the anger he tries to hide. You're quite proud of him, aren't you? Well, of course. After Minato, I have never seen someone with talent like this. Though Minato had a better temper. But even Minato was not at his level. Not at this age, Jiraiya countered. Naruto has been through a lot, but also grew because of all those hardships. But when he was young, he accidentally saved the heir of the Hyuga clan. They took him in, and gave him a safe place to live, despite the hatred he got from the rest of the village. I'd say that saved the kid from a far worse fate. The same Hyuga as. Yes, Hyuga Hinata, Jiraiya nodded. I suspect that Naruto holds a lot of gratitude towards her, and sees her as the one who saved him, rather than the other way around. In the end, they were put in the same genin team, and their bond only got stronger. So that is why he went so far. I mean, he risked using its chakra. Yes, Hinata suffered injuries to her heart. Though not directly lethal, it would mean the end of her future as a shinobi, as well as her position in her clan. Naruto was desperate, because I told him you were the only one capable of saving her. Desperate enough to engage an opponent of who he knew was superior to him. Tsunade sighed, and rubbed her forehead. Fine then. I guess I lost that bet anyway. I know you swore you would stop, Jiraiya said. And I do not ask you to fight, but your presence alone would be enough to make any opponent reconsider an attack on Konoha. Tsunade nodded, though she did not know how to tell Jiraiya that it wasn't so much that she swore to quit, but rather that she could not fight in earnest anymore. Not since Dan, she would not be able to deal with more death and destruction. What is it, kid? Tsunade sighed, after she saw Naruto looking at her again. He hadn't spoken a word since they left. He had slept the entire night, and woke up early in the morning. She had the impression that he was depressed because of something, but could not understand why. After a few moments of silence, I must apologize, Bachan, he said. She narrowed her eyes, and Shizune quickly moved in between them. Then why don't you stop calling me that? She asked sharply. Naruto shrugged, smiling faintly. That nothing I want to apologize for. No, I lost control for a moment. Like I said, it was not enough to put me in danger, Tsunade boasted. I admit that I had to take you seriously, but it wasn't like you could have killed me. Naruto did not look very convinced. Tsunade-sama is one of the Sannin, Shizune scolded him gently. She is one of the strongest shinobi in the world. I am not stupid enough to fail to see that she was playing with me, Naruto replied pointedly. But still, she is only a shinobi. A mere human. If the Kyuubi broke out, what chance does one human have? You are too fragile. Karen exhaled sharply. So that was the secret behind Naruto's strange chakra. The legendary monster was somehow locked inside him. This is of course a secret, Jiraiya said looking at her. Do not tell anyone, unless you want to risk execution. Though you can talk about this with Kiba and Hinata if you want, they know about it as well. Naruto. Karen did not know what to say. Though the boy had a chakra that scared her more than anything else had ever done, he was rather friendly, even though he distanced himself from others. And Naruto, Jiraiya continued. You should not overestimate the situation. With Tsunade and myself around, we will be more than able to stop the Kyuubi before he can break free. You still have a lot of things to learn before you can beat us, brat, Tsunade agreed. Though Tsunade did not dare to guess how long it would take for Naruto to reach their level. Probably years, instead of decades. With Shizune carrying Taunton, the group traveled fast. Within days, they reached the vicinity of Konoha. They decided to put up camp for the night. Karen and Shizune prepared dinner. Tsunade noticed that the two had grown pretty close in these last few days. Something which amused her a lot, as she saw the differences between the calm and reasonable older kunoichi, and the hot-headed and straightforward genin. She took another sip from her bottle of sake, and looked at the other side of the clearing where they had stopped. Jiraiya was instructing Naruto, as the latter tried to improve his mastery of the lighting style. Naruto seemed rather frustrated that his attempted jutsu had failed during the match with her. At first, she had been surprised about it, but after a few days she got used to the casual way the boy used the Kage Bunshin no jutsu. As usual, Jiraiya instructed his real body, while about a dozen clones were busy trying to wrinkle their leaves as quick as they could. The boy had claimed he could create more clones for this, but that he did not take the risk to be discovered. As if he thought she would be disappointed that he created so few Bunshin for this. The look Jiraiya gave her said enough. Naruto was not even aware that this method of training would likely only be possible for a Jinchuriki like him. Still, his opinion of her did not seem to change much, and he could barely muster the proper respect when speaking to her. So, how do you think you will do in the finals? She asked one of the clones near her. The clone shrugged. I think there is only one who is equal to me in terms of power. That Gaara of the desert, she concluded. Jiraiya had told her about the other Jinchuriki who had entered the exams. As if one was not worse enough for the other candidates, had her first thought been when she heard about it. And that Neji you talked about yesterday. The clone grimaced, and then smirked. I will allow him to think that he can fight, for a while. Fools like him need to be humiliated before they die. You really care about that girl, don't you? She teased the clone. Don't be shy, she smirked. Just admit it. It is not like that, he said resolutely. I owe Hinata-sama my life, he added with a formal tone. If I had not met her, I would have remained in orphanages. Or perhaps I could have gotten a room in the barracks when I got a little older. But because of her, I have at least had some happiness. She is one of the few friends I have. And I will never forgive those who hurt my friends. The undercurrent of pure rage was clear to her. Jiraiya had told her about how this Neji had beaten Hinata. She wondered if Neji would survive, or if that boy was smart enough to forfeit before the fight started. Though a Hyuga would definitely be too proud to do the latter, she guessed. Chapter 26. Recovery. Waking up after having a happy dream was always the worst thing that could happen early in the morning. Opening her eyes to the darkness of night, she remembered where she was, and why. Even though several doctors had ensured her that she was doing fine, Hinata still felt weak. Her mother had forbidden her to use chakra. And the doctors kept their troubled looks whenever they thought she wasn't looking at them. Even getting out of bed, and walking towards the chair, which stood barely 2 meters from her, was exhausting. In her dreams, she remembered what had happened when Naruto started to live at the Hyuga estate. How Haruki, who had resigned from his position as a shinobi a few months before, now was struggling to keep Naruto under control. How he had labored to teach Naruto proper manners. Hinata remembered how foreign Naruto had seemed to her. An entity which stood free from all the rules and pressure people put on him. A silent and withdrawn little boy, who stood independent of all others, who faced his loneliness with more bravery than anyone she knew. For someone like her, who always clamped onto her mother, and was too shy to speak her mind, the way Naruto lived in solitude was a small wonder. How quick had it been before she had noticed she admired him? Not because her father told her that Naruto had saved her, but because Naruto had the will and mental strength that she lacked. In the years where she had been a constant disappointment to her clan, Naruto stood alone and cultivated the strength she could now see in her teammate. How long had it been since that admiration changed into something stronger? Hitomi had tried, more than once, to get both the children to grow closer. But Hinata recalled how she was too shy, while Naruto had remained formal, even a bit distant, doing what Haruki had taught him to do when someone of the main family was near. And the more she got to know him, the harder it became for her to act naturally to him. But now that she thought back, Hinata recollected that Naruto had never been comfortable around people of his own age. He had eventually accepted Haruki, just as he had done with Jiraiya and the Hokage himself. But most of the time, Naruto had just kept his distance from everyone. Hinata sighed. And I never dared to get close either, always failing because I was too embarrassed. Just like the coward others say I am. And the longer she had kept her distance from Naruto, the harder it had become for her to step forward. Until she thought he would abandon Konoha, that was. And now Naruto had left to train, or so Kiba and Hitomi had told her. Why was there always some reason that kept them apart? She sighed. Not that it would matter. Even if Naruto-kun saw me. She blushed at the thought. Even if, it would be impossible. I'm expect to marry someone important. Father would never even consider someone who was barely more than a clanless man. She expected that her clan would be in turmoil. Now that she had failed against Neji, the main family's reputation was at stake. And it could not use that the clan's honored guest had just threatened the branches, champion, and defied the fighting style that the Hyuga had cultivated for centuries. Even though Hinata knew that she was useless, she was not stupid. Her mother visited her every day, but neither her father nor her little sister had taken the trouble to come see her. She had embarrassed her father, and he would likely follow the main family's stance that she was unfit to be heir. Hinata closed her eyes again. She wanted to sleep, to dream about the time her team headed out for those ruins. She wanted to see the enthusiasm from Kiba and Akamaru, who only looked worried recently, no matter how hard they tried to hide that. She wanted to relive the cautious acceptance from Naruto towards them, and his unyielding determination. She wanted to see her sensei without a worried face, and see her as she was when she was scolding Jiraiya for insinuating something that wasn't proper. She wanted them to return to how they were on their last mission outside Konoha. I wish I was someone else, her last thoughts were, before she fell asleep again. Sensei. Tsunade bowed slightly when she saw the Hokage. Hiruzen had been notified they would come through the main gate, and despite the early hour, he was already waiting. Tsunade. The old man smiled. I am glad to see you return to Konoha once again. Don't get too happy, she warned. I am only here for a few days. After the exam, I am gone. Hiruzen nodded, not showing his disappointment. So you still. Some wounds cannot be healed, sensei. You know that. But those are not the wounds why I am here. I see. So you too had success. Is that, Shizune? Hiruzen's eyes widened a bit. Last time I saw you barely reached my shoulder. And now it's the other way around. I have surely grown old, he laughed. Hokage-sama, Shizune said politely, as she bowed. Even Taunton bowed her head, something which amused Hiruzen. And who is this? He added, looking at Karen. We found her while we were looking for Tsunade, Jiraiya told the lie they had prepared. Karen has some unusual sensory abilities, perhaps she hails from some lesser-known bloodline. She helped us locate Tsunade, and in return I promised her she could enter Konoha. I think she would make quite a good shinobi. Shizune even thinks Karen has the aptitude to learn the mystical palm technique, and that she has talent to become a fine healer. I see. Hiruzen slowly spoke, recognizing that not everything was told. Well, if you say she can be trusted, I will trust you. He knew full well that Jiraiya was not the fool he usually pretended to be, and combined with Naruto's other sense, it would have been nearly impossible for a young girl to fool them. Thank you, Hokage-sama, Karen said, relieved. Genma, the Hokage called his guard to him. You ensure Karen gets a place in to live, and that her skills and knowledge is assessed before she is either allowed into the academy or assigned to active duty. Yes, Hokage-sama, Genma bowed slightly, and led Karen away. Now, shall we go? Hiruzen gestured at the direction of the hospital. When Hinata woke, she still felt exhausted. Though dreamless, her night had not given her much rest. Though Kiba, Akamaru, and her other visitors tried to cheer her up, Hinata felt like she was locked away. Imprisoned. Like a caged bird. Unwilling to open her eyes to another long day wherein she could do nothing but look at all the flowers, she turned to her side and decided to sleep another few hours. In this hopeless world only the flowers seemed to have some color. Still, the tranquility of dreams was preferable. But something was different this morning. There was a smell of food, mixed with the smell of the hospital and the flowers. The latter was still a mystery to her. Konohamaru brought new flowers every few days, but refused to tell her why, aside from mentioning that it was his mission. And she refused to believe Ino's gossip. She didn't dare to hope for such a thing. And somewhat annoyingly, Kiba seemed to find the whole situation rather amusing. Her half-conscious mind started to figure out why she could smell food, and she noticed the soft sounds of someone eating. Hinata groaned a little, as she turned around to look at the source of the sound. She spurred open her eyes. Naruto. She whispered with a hoarse and dry voice. Naruto. He looked up from his dish when she called him for the second time. Her green-clad teammate had a small box with food from Ichiraku's with him. Hinata smiled at the sight. Hinata. Naruto put the box on the table, and moved towards her. How are you? I'm fine. Not really, he said with a wry smile. But you will be, he promised. Naruto. I'm sorry I was away for all this time, Naruto apologized, but before she could answer, he continued. But at least my mission was successful. Jiraiya, Karen, and we retrieved someone who can completely heal you, he smiled. So you finally came back. Kiba opened the door. Akamaru jumped towards Naruto, demanding attention. And why do you smell like pig? Kiba frowned, noticing the smell. That would be Taunton. Her pig. And yeah, it took a bit longer than expected, but she agreed to come to Konoha. Naruto smiled while patting Akamaru. Tsunade Basen is still downstairs, discussing with the doc. And with Hitomi-sama, who also knew we had returned, somehow. Seriously, our mother's all-knowing. Probably, Kiba smirked. Outsmarting them is impossible, not to mention dangerous. He shivered a bit. Hinata had somewhat recovered from the unexpected situation. Tsunade-sama, the Sanin. She realized. Yup. Naruto sat down and finished what was left of his food. She's the pervert's old teammate, and they say she's the best healer in the world. In addition to being a short-tempered drunk, he laughed. And a damn coward. Hinata looked a little puzzled, so Kiba decided to tell. There is some damage that the doctors could not treat, Hinata. Wait, you didn't tell her. Naruto asks. What damage? Hinata sounded a bit worried. Is it? There is nothing to worry about now, Hinata, Naruto assured her. That bastard of a Neji damaged your heart. But now that we have retrieved Tsunade Basen, you will be fine. That's right, Kiba added. Though I'm sorry we kept it a secret. But we did not tell you because it is bad for you to worry too much. But, Naruto-kun, you're training. You should not have wasted your time on. I trained while traveling. Kiba is right, you know. You really do worry too much. Relax a little. I know we are pretty much lost without you. I mean, Kiba has too much energy focus on anything, and I am even worse. But we'll manage. Hinata smiled weakly while Kiba protested. You are the eyes and brains of our team, Hinata-sama, Naruto added, deliberately using the honorific to make sure she knew he was scolding her. But even so, you don't have to worry about us. Let us worry about you for a change. But, no objections, Kiba smirked. For once I agree with Naruto, so you lose the vote. How I love democracy in these situations. You focus on your recovery. Naruto chuckled. I'll focus on putting that Neji down. If he doesn't forfeit first, Kiba laughed softly. Why would Neji Nisan forfeit? Because I nearly killed him last time, Naruto shrugged, before adding darkly, he was lucky that those Jonin interfered. But he won't forfeit, he's far too stupid to do such a thing. At least, I hope so. Hinata was startled when Kiba told her all the details of what had happened. How Naruto had pulled Hinata out of the fight, and how he had nearly choked Neji to death. What surprised her was how Naruto laconically described how Neji's Juken had struck his chest, like he hardly took it seriously. Sure, Kurenai had hinted at Naruto's actions, telling her he saved her, but this. She knew Naruto was far stronger than she was, yet she still wanted to warn him not to underestimate Neji. Don't waste your breath on trying to lecture that brat, he will never listen, Tsunade grimaced as she barged into the room. Nor does he care about who he is fighting. Ba-san. Naruto protested, though Hinata could see he was not serious. How many times do I have to tell you not to call me like that? The blonde woman started to protest, the bulging vein on her forehead obvious to all. Told you she was short-tempered, Naruto said to Kiba. So, will you help Hinata like you promised? He continued with a serious and cold voice. Because I'll kill you if you don't. He added in thought. I made a promise. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, noticing Naruto's sudden change in demeanor. And I don't treat lives like I treat money. I never go back on the bets I make, brat. Shizune couldn't help but sigh. Will you two ever stop your ceaseless bickering? She said, before she walked towards Hinata. You will make a full recovery, Hinata-sama, she promised the girl. Yeah, I was shocked those doctors couldn't even treat it themselves, Tsunade scoffed. Perhaps it is not so bad to return here for a little while. Those amateurs certainly need some training. Could give us a nice amount of Ryo too, she mused. I bet they would be pretty desperate for a good teacher here. You three get out of here, Tsunade looked at the two genin and the dog. Just go to the waiting room, this should only take an hour or so. Jiraiya-sama, Kurenai bowed. She was somewhat surprised to find one of the Sannin on her doorstep, at this time in the morning. Good thing she always got up early. Kurenai, Jiraiya said with serious face. We just returned this morning, and Tsunade is going to heal Hinata today. That is great, Kurenai replied, relieved that they had succeeded in their mission. But why are you here? I need to leave Konoha for a few days, something I need to check. I would like you to look after Naruto these last 5 days before the exam. He says he still wants to test something, so training him will probably won't be much of an effort, but I would like it if you took him in for these days. Keep him safe. What? Is this because of the Hyuga clan? I don't know the details, but it seems there is a little unrest within their clan. Hitomi asked me to keep Naruto with me for these days, but that would be a bit difficult now, Jiraiya sighed. So I would like to ask you to take over from me. It is no problem, Jiraiya-sama. Naruto is my student, after all. I could take him to the edge of Konoha for a few days, under the cover of him not wanting to be disturbed while training. Jiraiya nodded. Good plan. But don't get too far from Konoha. And don't let the brat do anything stupid, like overexerting himself right before the exam. Kurenai smiled. Don't worry. I'll keep him under control. Even if I have to resort to genjutsu to do it. Thank you. Jiraiya bowed slightly. And be careful. Also for Naruto himself. His anger. I pity that Hyuga brat who pissed him off, Jiraiya frowned. Angry enough to charge at someone like Tsunade. Sure, she may be far past her prime, but she is still one formidable adversary. Yet he didn't even flinch before attacking her. And it wasn't like he was unaware of what he was getting himself into either. Thank you, Naruto, Hitomi bowed to the surprised genin. When he, Kiba, and Akamaru entered the waiting room, they saw that she was already waiting for them. There is no need to thank me, Naruto said while he scratched the back of his head, embarrassed. I mean, Jiraiya-sensei and Karen-chan did most of the work. But you were the one to convince Tsunade-sama to go with you, she countered. And what Tsunade-sama told me about the bet was quite impressive. She even refused my offer to compensate her, because she lost that bet. What bet did you make? Kiba frowned. Nothing much, only that I could make her fight me seriously, Naruto said casually, not waiting to sound like he bragged about it. You fought one of the Sannin. Well, it was just a little duel. It was more than little, Hitomi remarked. At least, Tsunade-sama acknowledged you forced her to take you seriously. They should just give you an exemption from the finals, Kiba laughed, would make it fairer to the others as well, if they just promoted you right now. Then who would stop Gaara? They chattered on for a little while, but mostly waited in silence. Neither of the genin was capable of completely hiding their concern, despite their bravado. Hitomi was glad her daughter found such teammates. Are you sure this is far enough? This is still a training ground, Kurenai said when Naruto stopped. I didn't plan to go too far from Konoha. This open space should be enough, especially for the first few tests. They had walked towards the edge of Konoha, and Naruto had more or less told her what he needed for his test. Though she did not particularly liked his restraint regarding what it was he wanted to test. You will see, sensei, he had told her. Sensei, I will create 2 bunshin and start my first attempt. I think it would be smart to keep a little distance. In case something goes wrong, he scratched his chin. Don't worry, fire doesn't hurt me, remember. He added after seeing her look. But it might be a bit destructive if it goes wrong. Though I did all the math, and it should work properly. She moved back a little, and looked on as Naruto and two of his clones sat down on the ground. They formed a triangle, with a few meters distance between them. When Kurenai had explained her plans to him, after Hinata had woken up half a day after the surgery, Naruto had first objected. Even after she had convinced him, with a little push from Tsunade helping her, he was still adamant about not wanting to go too far away. On their way to the training area, Naruto had told her why he wanted to visit Hinata. Hinata-chan always worries about everything, and never trusts herself. I think her defeat only made that worse. What kind of teammate would I be if I ignored her and just continued training? He had said. While Kurenai was lost in thoughts, waiting until Naruto would do something, Naruto had created some kind of fiery pattern on the ground. When he stood up, Kurenai shifted all her attention towards the site. Flames rose from the lines that formed the pattern. Fuinjutsu. Enetsu Jigoku, Naruto said firmly. His bunshin vanished, and his face grimaced in concentration. The flames dwindled for a moment, and a fire spread within the circular form of the seal. Kurenai almost fell over when the small fire suddenly ignited into a raging pillar of flames. The pillar was at least as tall as a 5-story building, and a few meters in diameter. The flames roared, as if the demonic voices from hell itself called out to her. These levels of chakra, Kurenai whispered. A fitting name. Enetsu Jigoku. The flames of hell. Then she noticed something urgent. Naruto, end the technique. She shouted. Naruto frowned, and struggled for a few seconds before the pillar of fire quenched. Though he was covered in sweat, and looked exhausted from the strain the seal had put on him, Naruto was still somewhat surprised at her outburst. Why, sensei? These levels of chakra are far too dangerous, she scolded him. Don't be so reckless. Naruto shrugged. Sure, it isn't easy, but I knew that. Though my calculations were a little off, I guess I need to alter the seal a little to reduce the strain a bit. Naruto scratched his chin, concentrated on the problem he just seemed to have noticed, while Kurenai was still shocked about something else. That is not the issue here, she started. It has no escape mechanism. Naruto didn't seem to listen to his sensei. But if I altered that part a bit, it should be easier to stop the technique. Or would it reduce the output as well? No, not if I expanded the left quadrant, and widened the chakra conductors. Kurenai rubbed her head. At least Naruto was aware of the danger of the technique. Not that she understood how he managed to cancel a technique which had lacked the option to bail out. Kurenai was surprised at the ease at which Naruto managed to tweak seals. After a few small attempts, he had created 3 more pillars of fire, before the genin was too exhausted to continue for the day. At least the last one worked properly, Naruto smiled. The escape mechanism doesn't reduce the power anymore. But it is a bit harder to create now. So that is why you added another bunshin. Kurenai guessed. Yeah, sometimes that is the only way. Focusing on 4 things at once is harder than spreading my chakra over some bunshin who each focus on 1 or 2 things, Naruto shrugged. He sat down on the ground, wiping the sweat from his head. He took off the shirt, which was also soaked. So, how did your training with Jiraiya-sama go? She asked, noticing the exceptional quality of the mesh armor he wore underneath his shirt. Could have been better, Naruto admitted. Still haven't completed the jutsu the pervert wanted to teach me. Rasengan he called it. My chakra control still isn't good enough for it. Not yet at least. He said I was still too angry to focus properly. But at least the Raiden training was reasonably successful. Lightning. Kurenai's eyes widened in shock, after hearing him casually talk about several crazy things that should have been impossible for a mere genin. Hell, even most jonin would not be able to do the 4th jutsu. Yeah, seems like I messed up while I was working on one of my seals, and it turned out accidentally was training to use Raiden. Well, it is still harder than Kaden or Futon, but at least it works now. Do you realize? 3 elements. I was told that the fire affinity is due to my guest. Wind is my own, and lightning is something I have trained for a while now, even though I was not aware of it. I'm still bad at it though. I tried to create a seal, but the notes didn't say it was Raiden based, so it took a lot of work before it worked to some degree, he added after seeing his sensei's confusion. If you continue like this, you should ask Kakashi Senpai to teach you some new jutsu. Nay, Don't need it much, Naruto shrugged. Tsunade-Bosen taught me a new one, because the jutsu I tried to use before was too complex for starters. What jutsu did she teach you? It's called numbing hands, and basically works similar to how the Juken does. Focus right into the hands, and it numbs the person you touch. That would be quite useful to support your taijutsu. Naruto nodded. Yeah, that is still a bit of my weak point. Along with genjutsu. Naruto lacked the precise chakra control which was needed for genjutsu, which was something Kurenai had figured out the first time she had seen him. Guy, keep your distance. Guy, Lee, and Tenten looked confused as Kurenai rushed towards them, screaming. What? The green-clad Jonin started. A gigantic pillar of fire erupted a short distance from where they stood. Whatever Kurenai said, it was unintelligible due to the roaring sound of the inferno. Kurenai had seen the display of Naruto's jutsu when he used his full power a few times now, and could understand the trio's awe. Half a minute later, the pillar got smaller, and eventually dwindled down until it could not be seen behind the bushes that stood between the shinobi and whatever the source of the fire had been. Naruto is testing something, Kurenai explained dryly. Which is a bit dangerous, that's why we went to this remote place. What was that? That thing, Kurenai? Guy asks, no trace of his usual bravado to be heard. Was that Fuinjutsu? Tenten asks, with a perplexed expression. Kurenai nodded at the younger Kunoichi. You saw it anyway, so just come along, though I would ask you to keep this knowledge to yourselves. Naruto released the jutsu, and fell backwards onto the grass. 34 seconds, while trying to use none of the Kyuubi's chakra. Still too weak, he grumbled, sweating despite having taken off his shirt and mesh armor. And though his pants were fireproof, there were some spots that looked charred. You call that weak? Tenten exclaimed. Are you completely nuts? Surprised, Naruto rolled over a bit to look behind him. Well, it didn't last very long, did it? What would you? Don't worry, I won't use the Enetsu Jigoku seal against you, Naruto smiled. Though, I would like it if you don't tell anyone. Do you plan to kill Neji? Lee asked worried. He isn't going to live if I am lucky enough to meet him, Naruto admitted coldly. But that wouldn't require such a jutsu, he shrugged. Why did you guys come here? Kurenai, what are you doing with him? Guy asks after his two students had ran off towards Naruto. I did not teach him something like this. I doubt I could even teach him anything about Fuinjutsu, Kurenai admitted. He works very hard, and there is enough he has yet to learn. But that is not just it. Naruto is simply a prodigy when it comes to Fuinjutsu. I see. Guy hesitated. I will believe that, after witnessing the way defeated Lee, without using any jutsu that could have put Lee in danger. Kurenai saw the look his face. Naruto did not want to harm Lee, Guy. It was not because he did not take Lee seriously. Besides, you should know that he has to hold back most of his power. What does Naruto-kun plan to do with Neji? Despite his actions, Neji is still my student. I do not know Guy. I begged him not to give in to hatred, but I do not know whether my words, Jiraiya's words, or even the Hokage's words will reach him. Guy looked downcast. Listen, Guy, Kurenai started. I know what Neji did was cruel and wrong, Tenten tried. But killing him, what good would that do? Naruto frowned. As much as his attempt to kill Hinata, he replied darkly. I do not care about what people do to me, but I will not tolerate them hurting my friends. Lee sighed, recognizing his fellow genin's resolve. He put a hand on Tenten's shoulder, stopping her from speaking against it. Naruto-san, if you try to kill Neji, you will only create more problems. But I doubt anyone could change your mind. We came here because of the promise you made, he continued. You promised Tenten to teach her a little about Fuinjutsu. And I wanted to talk about our fight, he admitted. Naruto blinked, having forgotten the promise he had made. Ah yes. I totally forgot that one, sorry Tenten. What did you want to learn? I do not know how difficult your seals are, Tenten hesitated somewhat. But the technique you used to defeat Lee. The weight seals. They are pretty doable. The seal itself is easy, but proper usage during fights is a bit complex. Lee watched on, not understanding a thing of what Naruto explained to his teammate, but the heavily browed boy could see the amount of effort it would have taken to learn such techniques from books and scrolls. So Naruto-kun is also a genius of hard work, he concluded with a smile. So you have used that seal to weigh me down. Lee frowned. But how did you? My cage bunshin. Every clone you popped added a seal on you. You said something like that before, Tenten remarked, but timing it would be impossible. There was a small window between Lee touching the clone, and the clone getting destroyed. Each clone used that fragment of a second to transfer all of its chakra onto whatever hits them. Basically, I programmed them in such a way that they can only do that jutsu properly. Those bunshin are pretty weak in whatever else they do. That's pretty smart, Tenten said, impressed. It was just a thing I used because I can't figure out the gravitation seal. And I did not want to use anything too dangerous. I mean, Lee never did anything bad to me, so why would I have to burn him down, only because of some stupid exam? You restrained yourself. While I went too far, Lee said with a sorrowful voice. Well, I always knew you were fast, but those gates really caught me off guard, Naruto admitted. But that move also caused damage to your own body, didn't it? Lee has already paid the price for his mistake, Guy said, as he and Kurenai joined them. And will train even harder to pay you back, don't you? Hi sensei. Lee smiled. So, about that storage seal, Naruto turned towards Tenten. The kunoichi now was a bit uncomfortable to explain her seal to Naruto, whose knowledge seemed to surpass hers by quite a large margin. And the end of her explanation, including a small demonstration, Naruto frowned. So the lower parts, they are used to quickly draw the weapon from the seal. When Tenten nodded, Naruto took off his left-hand guard, and drew the seal on it. Putting a few kunai in them, Naruto finished the seal. I guess this seal will be quite useful. Thanks, Tenten. This really makes my old storage seal look stupid, he laughed. Tenten blushed a little. Would you be willing to teach me more about fuinjutsu? Naruto frowned, not sure if the girl was serious. Teach you? Well, fine, I guess. Though there are several jutsu which belong to the Uzumaki clan, I guess that it does not matter much, seeing how I am the last of my clan. Guy looked with some surprise at Kurenai. Not that the older kunoichi had seen this turn of events coming, and looked equally stunned. I guess teaching you just some seals won't work though. Better deal with the basics first, Naruto said thoughtfully. The basic knowledge in Konoha seems to suck compared to what I've learned from the Uzumaki scrolls. No offense, he quickly added. Why don't we strike a deal? I teach you something about fuinjutsu, and you help me training to use weapons. Hell, even the others can join in, for all I care. Lee looked confused. Naruto-san, I can't. Everyone would benefit from learning the basic theory, Guy agreed. And having a sparring partner would benefit you as well, Tenten. Hi, sensei. Lee bowed, though not entirely convinced that someone like him, incapable of performing jutsu, could learn much about fuinjutsu. Tenten looked thoughtfully. What sort of weapon do you want to master, Naruto? Spears or pole arms? Naruto smiled thinking of how he planned to eventually use the Gekihoko which was sealed in his right hand. Tridents always seemed pretty interesting to me. And seeing how you pretty much mastered every weapon that exists. Tenten blushed at the compliment. Well, I don't often use spears, and never used a trident, but we'll work it out, she smiled. I take it that would be after the exams. Kurenai said. Yeah, it would be a bit pointless to work on learning new fuinjutsu right now. Perhaps I should ask if Hinata and Kiba want to join in as well. Naruto mused. Though, I should warn you guys that most of the seals require considerable amounts of chakra. So the more advanced jutsu will probably be impossible. Tenten and Lee nodded, and Guy put up his thumb. A wonderfully youthful promise, Naruto-kun. You already look a lot stronger than yesterday, Naruto smiled. Hinata blushed weakly when he had looked at her inquisitively. Do you want me to bring you some proper food tomorrow? You don't need to. Nonsense. The rubbish they call food in this hospital only makes people feel even worse, he smiled her protests away. Though I should have thought about that earlier. I could have made Konohamaru bring you some decent food as well. You really were the one who. Hinata blushed, the shade of red now approximating her usual color. You made Konohamaru-chan buy those flowers. Naruto shrugged. Yeah, I wanted to do something, but to go out of Konoha as well. Konohamaru agreed to help you, so I lent him Gama-chan. Thank you. Hinata bowed her head, still annoyed she was forbidden to get out of the hospital bed. No problem, he smiled. I've been in this place a few times when I still lived in the orphanage, and it almost stinks as much as the orphanages themselves. I thought some flowers would make it a bit better. And I thought that you once said you liked flowers, he added, somewhat uncertain. I do. She stuttered. Calm down, he laughed at her. Bachan said you should be able to walk a bit tomorrow, but that you should still keep calm today. So fast. Why not? I mean, you don't want to miss the finals, do you? Hinata looked downcast. Though if you don't want to, you should do what you want, alright. Naruto said, thinking Hinata was still sad about her loss. No, Neji. What will you do if you have to face Neji Nisan? Naruto frowned a bit. Depends on what he will say, and do, he decided to be honest. Though I suspect he is too proud to forfeit, or apologize for what he did to you. Please don't be too harsh on him. Neji. The entire branch family, they suffer because. I don't care how righteous the source of their rage is, if they take it out on someone who has nothing to do with it, I will end them, Naruto said resolutely. If those idiots from the branch used their famous eyes for once, they would see that you would be the ideal clan leader to them. Naruto frowned and looked away. And this friendship thing. No one harms my friends and gets away with it. Though, when Naruto left, half an hour later, his resolve had dwindled a little. Hinata pleaded him not to make the situation worse. Naruto could understand that executing vengeance would only increase the problems within the clan, but he could not fathom how Hinata seemingly forgave Neji for what he had done. Or even worried about her cousin's well-being. Perhaps I should instead admire Hinata's strength, he mused when sprinting back to the training ground. People always say Hinata is too gentle, and call it weakness, but weak people would hate the ones that hurt them. True strength is more about someone's character than it is about their actual fighting ability. Naruto realized, frowning when he considered how weak he was. Getting the two of them to fight each other in the first round would be too conspicuous, Jiraiya warned the Hokage. We don't want to offend the Kazekage, at least not before we know what he plans to do. You are right, Hiruzen mused. Perhaps it would be better to switch Gaara from the fourth to the first place. So that Naruto would face him in the second round. And, Jiraiya chuckled a bit when he saw what his sensei had done. I am sure he would appreciate it if you gave Naruto the chance to fight him in the first round. It is a test, Hiruzen explained. A test to see whether we can depend on Naruto, even when he hates his opponent. If he desires to take my position one day, he will have to show the restraint and wisdom needed. Jiraiya nodded. His sensei may have lost some of his strength on his age, but his wisdom only seemed to grow. At times, the old man was still capable of giving Jiraiya the feeling of when he was that fresh genin who had just left the academy. Though that was also the reason Hiruzen had been able to keep the position for so long. Naruto. A voice called up from behind him. Naruto had just visited Hinata. Like Tsunade had promised, Hinata had been able to walk a little yesterday, and today Tsunade would test her, though Shizune had given away that Hinata's recovery was ahead of schedule. On his way back to the training ground, now was halted by Haku. Haku. And Zabuza. Sensei. Too. Naruto smirked. Zabuza never seemed to like it when Naruto joked about his new occupation. But the woman who stood behind them was unfamiliar. Two green eyes looked at his face, revealing a lot of curiosity. Wearing a somewhat revealing blue dress over mesh armor, Naruto thought she looked quite attractive for a woman of her age. Not that she was old, but Naruto had become a bit weary of people who looked like they were in their early 30s. Something he had to thank Tsunade for. Mizukage-sama, this is Uzumaki Naruto, Haku introduced him to the woman. Naruto, this is Terumi Mei, Godime Mizukage of Kurigakure. After a moment of surprise, Naruto bowed to the woman. My apologies, Mizukage-sama. Please, no formalities, she said with a gentle voice. So you are the genin who defeated Haku? Yes, madam. Though I hope you don't want to take revenge on his behalf. He added with a grin. No, the woman laughed, shaking her long auburn hair. I came here to restore diplomatic relations, not to create more problems. Mizukage-sama has recently been appointed, Zabuza added. That's why Haku and I went back. I couldn't stand the old ways, and our new cage agreed with that. Ow. Mei had smacked Zabuza on the back of his head. He can't stand my ways, she thought, completely mishearing him. Zabuza looked quite surprised, while Haku struggled not to chuckle. It is rather impressive that you managed to defeat Haku, Mei continued. Were you not using your mirrors, Haku? I was at full strength, my lady, Haku replied politely. Well, that Gato guy had angered me, Naruto tried to explain, so it wasn't really fair. Mei looked curiously. Power was not related to emotion, at least not to the extent that he could defeat Haku as smoothly as was described to her earlier. And the boy felt unusual. I see. So I should thank you for that as well. The shipping magnate Gato also held great influence in our country. With his demise I could solidify my position. He was scum, so there is no need to thank me, Naruto replied dryly. But I thank you nevertheless, she chuckled. But if I may ask, you and your sensei could have beaten Zabuza, why did you not do that? Why would I? Naruto shrugged. His employer died, so his battle was lost anyway. If he had tried to avenge Gato, things might have gone differently. Right then, there was no reason to murder Zabuza. Mei nodded. I agree, Naruto-san. I wish you success in the finals, though of course not against our Haku, she chuckled. Thank you, Miss Mizukage, Naruto smiled. I hope Haku and I do not meet before the final round. Naruto bowed, and continued his path towards the training grounds. Interesting boy, Mei said, pleased with her title of Miss Mizukage. I think your guess is correct, Zabuza. I highly doubt any genin would stand a chance against someone like him, he replied. And there is another as well. Do I have to forfeit against Naruto, just as I have to do when I have to face Gaara? Haku asks. This Naruto is very different from what you told about Gaara, Mei said slowly. Naruto has his sanity, so even though a fight is probably futile, he is not as dangerous as the other one. You haven't seen him angry, Mizukage-sama, Haku remarked dryly, before he bowed and they continued their path. The Mizukage had to meet with the Hokage first, something she had looked forward to for quite some time. Sensei. Jiraiya asks, somewhat surprised that the Hokage had called for him. Jiraiya. Hiruzen nodded. Please take a seat, I wanted you to be here when our guest arrived. Guest. You mean the new Mizukage? Yes, she arrived in Konoha today, and I figured we had several things to discuss, and I wanted your input on these matters as well. Jiraiya nodded, and the two waited until one of the guards knocked on the door. Hokage-sama, Mizukage-sama has arrived, and wishes to enter. It's fine, Genma. I told you that earlier, Hiruzen sighed. Welcome Mizukage Dono. He bowed his head to the new arrival. Zabuza, Haku, you two wait outside, Mei ordered. But, my lady, Zabuza wanted to argue, looking at Jiraiya and not wanting to leave the Mizukage alone without protection. Outside, Mei repeated, with a frown. Yes, Mizukage-sama, Zabuza and Haku bowed and left. Guards. So annoying, Mei sighed. You mind if I skip the formalities, Hokage Dono? Not at all, Hiruzen smiled. Please, take a seat. Thank you. Well now, might I ask why you requested me to come to Konoha earlier? Mei asks. Hiruzen sighed and gestured to Jiraiya. Well, you want me to tell her the entire situation. Jiraiya frowned, and waited till the Hokage nodded. Well, we are currently facing a potential dangerous situation. One of the most powerful missing nins of Konoha, Orochimaru, recently attacked a few genin during the second stage of the Chunin exams. What? He claimed to have a special interest in the exams, but that is not the only thing that worries us. Orochimaru alone is strong enough to face the Hokage by himself, but we recently received information that seems to point out that he joined a band of mercenaries, named the Akatsuki. If Orochimaru acted on his own, it would have been a problem, but not something we could not handle, but him being a mercenary. The worst case scenario, Hiruzen continued, is that he has been hired by Sunagaku. What? Why would Suna break their treaty with Konoha, while their relation with Iwagakure is so strained right now? We do not know either, Jiraiya admitted. But we know that the Kage sent a single team to the exams, with a very unstable Jinchuriki being one of the genin in that team. As said, this is the worst case scenario, but if you add things up, a ticking time bomb being sent into the exams, a mercenary with a long history of hatred against Konoha suddenly popping up, and like you yourself just said, their relations with Iwa. I suspect that the Kage would figure that declaring war on Konoha would only improve their relations with Iwa, seeing how much Iwa hates us. It would make us the common enemy. And a sudden attack could be the start of a war which would spread through the world. May massaged her forehead. Shit. Why does everyone also want war? This is why I decided to share this information with you, Mizukage Dono, Hiruzen answered on a formal tone. You declared you had intentions to repair the relations between Konoha and Kiri. Our previous correspondence gave me the hope that we could perhaps work together to avoid another war. I understand, May frowned. Yes, it certainly is my desire to make Kirigakure part with its past and its former nickname of, the Bloody Mist. But I admit I had not expected a situation like this coming up. May I ask, how did you prepare for the possibility of an invasion? We strengthened our defenses, and changed most of our older protocols as a precaution. We gathered nearly every Chunin and Jonin, so we will be at full strength if an attack would come. Beyond that, we have our own trump card to face Suna's Jinchuriki, Hiruzen explained. And Senju Tsunade agreed to return to Konoha, Jiraiya added. Though, she will not be present at the finals itself, she will be reinforcing our defenses. So you don't have to worry that you bet on a lost cause, he sneered. May laughed. Sorry, but I had to be that blunt, I cannot carelessly risk the existence of my village. We understand, Hiruzen smiled. But I would like to ask what your position in this will be. The representative from Kumo agreed to help us in case she feels threatened or if someone attacks her. May chuckled. I think I can answer your question pretty easily. She presented them a scroll. This is my offer, Hokage Dono. Though I had written it before being aware of this situation, I promise you nothing about this offer will change, no matter the outcome of this possible invasion. As for direct aid, both me and my Jonin guards will assist Konoha, and consider any attack on Konoha during the exams as a breach of the treaty between the 5 nations regarding the Chunin exams. Hiruzen stood up and bowed as he received the scroll with the Mizukage's proposal. I thank you, Mizukage Dono. Kurenai looked down upon the exhausted Naruto. So, this was a success. Yeah, Naruto panted. This time, the seal functioned properly, and managed to keep it up for over 40 seconds without the Kyuubi's chakra, while the output was still on its highest. Without, Kurenai started. So you succeeded in telling the difference between your own chakra, and that of the Kyuubi now. Can you contain it? I must. I've been able to tell the difference for a while now, but the hard part is that I still seem to draw it in whenever I get angry. It's actually just too easy. So can you promise me to keep calm? Naruto smiled. Probably, but I won't make promises that I cannot keep. How do you plan to fight Neji? She knew he wanted to fight the Hyuga most of all. You know many people will look at you tomorrow. Neji is not the problem. The only one who is a threat to me is Gaara. Well, perhaps Sasuke would be tricky, but after you taught me the basics on dispelling genjutsu. Well, I hope that will be enough. Kurenai remembered how quickly Naruto had picked it up, and nodded. Performing genjutsu will probably still be impossible for you. And remember, do not look directly into the Sharingan. Kurenai knew that Naruto used the Kyuubi's chakra to disturb his own, when she tried to use genjutsu against him. She sighed. And Gaara, do you plan to use this Enetsu Jigoku against him? Naruto sat up, and looked seriously. I guess it would be best if anything I do against Gaara is kept within the boundaries of the exam, but telling my sensei will probably not be a violation of any treaty between Konoha and Suna. Naruto mused. The woman had been very kind these last few days. In all senses of the word, she was actually his teacher. Much more than Kakashi, who had only left his students to fend for themselves, this woman actually cares for her genin. Even for him. Naruto was not one to easily trust someone, but she certainly had made an impression on him. Kurenai frowned. I guess not. Why? We spoke to Gaara's teammate, his sister, Naruto explained. She told us that Gaara is only the way he is because his demon's influence is too strong. The seal which should keep the demon in check is far too weak, and that's why the demon corrupted him. She also described the seal which was placed on him, after I had promised her to do everything I can to help him. Help him? Kurenai exclaimed. How? Are you out of your mind? Well, if I could do something besides killing him, it would probably avoid a lot of trouble, right? Even war. I can think of two methods. First, I repair or reinforce his seal, but that will probably be quite difficult to do during the match. The second option would be for me to reduce the influence his demon has on him. How is that possible? Basically, I experienced the same thing. After the Kyuubi exhausted a large amount of its chakra, it needed some time to restore from that. Seems that, because of the sealing, their recovery is somewhat slower. If I do something similar to Gaara, he should be able to regain control. So I have never met someone like myself, at least not before the exam started. I don't plan on killing Gaara if I have the chance to avoid it. And yet you trained using this Hellfire seal. I do not know what Gaara's demon is capable of, Naruto shrugged. So I need to have some kind of countermeasure if it seems to go wrong. Kurenai could see that Naruto had thought this true, but was worried nonetheless. You realize what the implications of Gaara's death would be, don't you? War, Naruto said with on an even tone. And that's why I will try to save him. But on the other hand, Tsunagakure sent Gaara into this exam, knowing the risk that he might die. Naruto stood up and gathered his things, but Kurenai noticed that her student kept a serious grimace. Sensei, I wanted to ask something. He started. How would you define strength? What do you mean, define? Kurenai frowned. Haku. When I talked with him, Haku talked about strength. How people need a reason, like someone or something, to be strong for. That sounds similar to the will of fire. I think Haku would be right about it. Only if people have a good reason, they can truly become strong. That is why all the Kages are strong, because they fight for an entire village. So they fight to protect. Naruto wondered. They serve their village, and act to protect the people they serve. And yet people think that shinobi are similar to tools. Kurenai nodded. It is expected of us, that we give our lives to those we have sworn to serve. But it goes beyond just an oath. Everyone have people they care about, who they love. We fight for our families, our friends, our loved ones. Naruto remained silent for a moment, consumed by his thoughts. So that is why the fourth did that to me, and because of him, I became a weapon that is expected to protect a village which hardly cares about me. Is there no one you care about? Kurenai said, trying to suppress the sorrow she felt. Naruto blinked. The old man himself, and Jiraiya. Haruki, Ako-san, Hitomi-sama and some of the Hyuga, Hinata, of course. And Kiba, Akamaru, and you, sensei. I guess those are my reasons to fight. Kurenai smiled a bit, happy that her student was not as heartless as she had initially feared. Though, heartless. How can I blame him from distancing himself from all the others, when all he got was the scorn of the people? When he had first joined Team 8, Naruto had felt rejected because he was put into another team. The fact that he had started to trust others a little, and then got rejected again had made him even more cautious of others. But slowly, and with help from Hinata, he felt that he changed again. Perhaps I really could lay down my life for them. Perhaps strength is indeed about more than just fighting for myself. And dying for my friends would at least be a meaningful death. Rather than being consumed by that fox, Naruto mused. He felt the fox's unease while he thought that, and smiled. To the demon that ruined his life, the least he could do is to take his enemy down with him. Sensei, would you forgive someone who hurts you, someone who tried to kill you? I take it you refer to Hinata and Neji. Kurenai said. Well, Hinata is aware of the laws within her clan, and the effect that those laws have on people like Neji. I cannot say if I would do the same thing, but I do believe that understanding another's pain is the first step to forgiveness. And forgiving people is the first step to ending hatred. Naruto nodded, and turned away to continue collecting his things so that they could travel back to Konoha. Even if I cannot forgive Neji, I guess I will do it for Hinata. At least, if Neji apologizes for what he has done. If he doesn't, I'll make sure he never forgets his lesson. Chapter 27. finals. In the end, Tsunade had agreed to let Hinata return home the day before the finals started. Her mother had told Hinata that Hiyashi had been disappointed with the outcome, and that with the current situation in the clan, he thought it would be best if she did not join her parents and sister in the arena. In fact, he thought it would have been better that she stayed home, but Hitomi arranged that she could still come, even though she would have different places at the arena. Early in the morning, Akko had come to Hinata's room to help her get prepared for the day. Though Hinata had mostly recovered, she still tired easily. "Thank you, Akko-san," Hinata said after Akko had handed her the clothes she wanted to wear today. "But why are you? Hitomi-sama asked me to take you to the finals today," Hinata-sama, the brown-haired girl responded politely. "Both Haruki-san and I also wished to see Naruto's progress, so Hitomi-sama asked Hisashi-sama to arrange some seats for us." I see," Hinata said, surprised. "Not really, Hinata-sama," the older girl smiled. "Even if I was not allowed to see, I would still have come to help you." "Why?" Hinata frowned a bit. Akko looked up, and both sets of white eyes looked at each other. "Because of Naruto, of course." Naruto-kun." Why? You managed to help Naruto, so that is why I owe you." "Naruto's path is difficult," Akko added upon seeing Hinata's response. He distanced himself from others, and only seemed to care about very few people. I know about his burden. I think you are one of the reasons he could maintain his humanity." I am. But why? Haruki-san once said that you have great influence on him, Hinata-sama. Naruto sees you as the one who saved him. Hinata had difficulty understanding it. Naruto always seems so strong. Like he does not need anyone, no matter what obstacle he meets. No person can live alone, Hinata-sama. Especially not when burdened like Naruto is. Don't be mistaken about his strength. When Akko finished doing Hinata's hair, they walked out, meeting Haruki. Hinata was a bit troubled by the look on the man's face. Despite him being a younger cousin of her mother, he appeared to be much older. His illness was obvious, but still moved with a persistent tenacity. But his worried frown was Hinata's greatest concern. Where are you? We're leaving. Akko called the feline, who quickly jumped of a nearby roof, and sprinted to Akko, begging to be petted. Haruki-san, are you concerned about Naruto-kun? Hinata asked Haruki. Haruki smiled weakly when he looked at the girl's worried face. Naruto assured me he would be fine, when he gathered his things yesterday. He always says that, Akko said, pointedly. But I know that boy called Gaara made him anxious, Haruki-san. Akko, anxiety is only a healthy thing, before he enters a fight in which he might die, the older man said wisely. I'd be more worried if he did not care about his own life. You both really care about Naruto-kun, don't you? Hinata remarked. Though she was happy that they did, she wondered why. Why so much? Haruki blinked a few times. He was my duty, at first. But he helped me to accept what I had become. The woman I loved died before we had the chance of getting children, but Naruto. Once you get through to him, he is gentle and caring, Akko added. People really fail to see how good he is. Both as a shinobi and as a person, I truly hope that he gets the chance to show everyone, now he must fight in the finals. As do I, Haruki said. This day could cause big changes for Naruto. But we should go now. Inuzuka-kun asked us to meet him in over 15 minutes at the park in front of the arena. Hinata nodded, and followed them outside. She could understand Haruki, but Akko always refused to talk about why she wanted to serve Naruto. Initially, she would, just like her brother, serve the main family. Probably as Hanabi's guardian. But instead, she had begged Hitomi to reconsider. And her mother always refused to tell Hinata why, saying that it was personal. But Hinata did not have the courage to ask now. And I just liked you being quiet, Naruto grumbled, annoyed to be dragged inwards once again. Quit your whining, you pathetic brat, the Kyuubi snarled. And tell me, what do you plan to do? Don't you already know what I want to do? Naruto asked with an annoyed voice. Beat that Gaara. Yes, the Kyuubi growled, with his claws coming closer to the bars that separated him from Naruto. And then what? Do you actually think you can save that brat? I made a promise, Naruto shrugged. So why wouldn't I try? Why would you care? Don't you already know? I am nothing like you, Fox. I can feel more than just hatred. Gaara may be evil right now, but that is not his fault. He is the first being I've met that suffers from the same things I did. I mean, Yugito-san may be like me, but she managed to escape her demon's control. Gaara, on the other hand, is in the exact same situation as me. Persistent little brat, the enormous fox turned away from Naruto. Well then, I'll just wait and see. You'd rather want me to kill him, don't you? What is it about Gaara's demon that you hate so much? Though Naruto could not see the fox's face, the deep sadistic laugh shocked him a bit. That one-tailed loser should not have been so conceited that he thinks he can face me. This one time, brat, I'll lend you the chakra to beat that loser. Thanks, I guess, Naruto said, looking at the back of the silent fox. The boy was confused that the fox would offer him such a thing, and what's the catch? One enormous eye opened, as the fox turned its head towards Naruto. You filthy humans. Don't think I am as honorless as you mongrels, the demon shouted in genuine anger, before he pushed Naruto away out of the inner world. Do you promise me to keep calm? Kakashi urged. Yeah, I already said I would, the annoyed Uchiha answered. After the Jonin had completed the seal Naruto had put on him, Sasuke had not been able to feel the chakra which he knew resided in the so-called cursed seal. After that, Kakashi had put Sasuke to training. Harsher than Sasuke had ever trained before. But the boy did not mind. In the contrary, he wanted to train even harder, but Kakashi had forbidden it, saying that Sasuke should not overtax his body so close before the finals. Remember, if that seal unravels, your match will be ended, Kakashi repeated. The examiner knows of your exception. Sasuke remained silent, annoyed that the Jonin had to repeat this again, as if he was some kind of absent-minded idiot like that Naruto. But Naruto was also the reason Sasuke wanted to train so hard, and gain as much power as he could. Naruto had made a thunderous impression during the preliminaries. Rock Lee, the genin that had easily beaten Sasuke before the written exam, had proven to be no match for his blonde former classmate. Something which annoyed Sasuke more than anything, he was supposed to be top of his class. And while Naruto had grown with an incredible rate, Sasuke was left behind, struggling even with the foolish Inuzuka. No matter his condition back then, he should not have struggled with that dog boy. How was he supposed to avenge his family if he was this pathetic? Itachi, I will surpass you. After the fox had thrown him out again, Naruto continued his path. Must have looked odd, me standing still there, Naruto mused. Though when he looked around, he wondered how much time had passed. Perhaps this inner world has a different sense of time, just like when I entered that seal in the Uzumaki ruins. So the Kyuubi wants to help me beat Gaara. That goes pretty much against what the old pervert said this morning. Jiraiya had visited Naruto at Kurenai's place, and remembered him to keep the Kyuubi's chakra in check. Naruto suspected that the old man feared what might happen if so many spectators saw him lose control for a moment. Can't blame him, they'll probably fear and hate me even more if they saw me like that. Or trust me a little when they see I am in complete control. Perhaps creating more fear is exactly what the fox wants. Though that last remark, it felt honest. Consumed by his thoughts, Naruto was surprised the moment Shikamaru touched his shoulder. Yo, Naruto, awake yet? I called you twice already, the lazy genin remarked. Ah, was lost in thought for moment, Naruto admitted. How did training go? Hey Ino, he added, seeing that the blonde Kunoichi had followed Shikamaru. Ino nodded, and grimaced when she thought back at training. Training was a hell. Don't know why, but Asuma-sensei seemed pretty desperate to make us strong all of a sudden. Probably another bet, Shikamaru smirked. Sensei never learns that it is too troublesome to argue against women. Kurenai-sensei seemed pretty relaxed this morning, Naruto frowned. Ino grimaced again. Yeah, that idiotic sensei of ours probably got lured into a trap again. He should know we can't win by now, not against him. But are you ready for the finals? Naruto continued. Not really, Shikamaru said bluntly. But Asuma-sensei made some threats, so we can't even give up either. Troublesome adults and their expectations. And how did your training go, Naruto? Ino asks, somewhat curiously. I heard you left Konoha. What did you do? Oh, there was a short mission I had to do, Naruto dodged. But training went fine. I wonder how it'll go today though. Yeah, I wish we knew who we would fight. In advance, Shikamaru grumbled. Anyone but that Gaara would be fine. What do you know about him, anyway? Shikamaru added, looking at Naruto. What do you mean? Naruto asks, trying to be innocent. I heard we should avoid fighting him, which is pretty reasonable after what I saw in the preliminaries. It seemed like you knew him, Ino remarked. Back when we had the first test. Knew him? No, not really, Naruto smiled. But his chakra is troublesome, so to say. That's what we've been told. Shikamaru looked sharply, despite his lazy demeanor. So he does know something. Naruto may be silent, but he wouldn't put us in danger. So whatever he knows, it confirms that Gaara is too dangerous to fight. Naruto didn't like to lie to his former classmate. After all, Shikamaru and Choji were probably the only ones who acted friendly towards him during the times at the academy. But despite his personal wishes, he could not say a thing about Jinchurikis or demons. If I were you guys, I'd forfeit the moment I knew I had to fight Sabaku no Gaara, Naruto decided as a compromise. You don't need tell me, I felt the chakra that guy radiated good enough to know I don't stand a chance, Shikamaru said on a casual tone. So Naruto plans to fight him. And is tensed about it. All this troublesome secrecy. Ino distracted them, as she saw Sasuke entering the stadium in front of them, and her shouting ended the conversation. So what do you guys expect? Lee asked Choji and Sakura. They had met each other while they entered the stadium, though in Lee's case it had not been a coincidence, not that he would have openly admitted that he was following Sakura. Sasuke-kun will do well. I hope he wins. I also hope Shino-kun puts up a good fight. Sakura could not fully control her inner fangirl. Choji shook his head. Nope. I think Neji or that Gaara are way more dangerous than Sasuke is. Though Shikamaru predicted that Naruto would win the tournament. The chubby genin took out a bag of potato chips and started to eat. Naruto-kun surely will, Lee nodded enthusiastically. Though he was careful not to reveal what he had seen from Naruto's training. Neji may be a genius, just like Sasuke-kun is, but I think Naruto and Gaara have a much greater chance. Though of course I'll be rooting for Tenten, he quickly added, before the other would think he doubted his teammate. You sure have a great deal of confidence in Naruto's ability, Sakura frowned. She would have liked to defend Sasuke, but had to admit that Naruto simply seemed to be on another level compared to them. At some nights, during her darkest dreams, she still relived the massacre in the Land of Waves. Of course I have, Lee grinned. After how he defeated me, I can't feel anything but admiration. But I will defeat him one day. You'll have your work cut out for you if want to do such a thing, Choji frowned. You know, my team practiced against Team 8 just before the exams started, we were beaten before we knew what happened to us. They did. Sakura was surprised. This would explain Ino's bad temper earlier, especially towards Hinata. Shino always speaks very highly of Kiba and Hinata. They are certainly good, Choji nodded. But I think we mainly lost that badly because of Naruto. Even Asuma-sensei said that he would pray that Ino and Shikamaru would not have to face him right away. Why would he do such a thing? Lee frowned. What could be better than having a fight against the strongest possible adversary? Advancing to the next round, showing what you can do, and getting promoted, Sakura answered dryly. She knew the green-clad genin cared about her, as he had expressed in his own unique and awkward way, and though she believed him to be a really nice guy, she considered him to be quite ignorant at times. It would seem Naruto certainly does have the best chances, he really did change a lot compared to how he was during the times at the academy. Even that Ino Pig admitted that she was impressed by him, Sakura mused. Though I would not understand why she made such a fuss of which hair color was better. She couldn't be serious when she said that Naruto and Sasuke were on the same level now, could she? But Sakura could not deny to herself, she was deeply impressed by his ability. Frightened, but also impressed. He even fought in as a true genius during the preliminaries. Somehow, in her eyes he had gotten that same, elite, aura as Sasuke always had. But with the difference that Naruto usually is nice and friendly, compared to Sasuke's brooding nature, an inner voice remarked sarcastically. Your Mr. Perfect doesn't act that way, while the outcast does. Sasuke-kun had a very rough childhood, how could I blame him if he acted a bit more distant? She retorted to her other self. And you saw what Naruto did just as well as I did. As if Naruto had an easy time. Admit it, you only focused on Sasuke, and ignored him. He even tried to talk to you, back in the academy days, while he never ever took the initiative with anyone else. I know, Sakura sighed. That's probably been a mistake. But still, he is no Sasuke-kun. But if that Ino pig switches to Naruto, I would have Sasuke-kun all for myself. Her inner voice sighed, and accepted that further discussion was pointless. The biggest mistake that Sakura made, she realized, was her inability to look at other people besides Sasuke. Hokage Dono, Mei greeted Sarutobi Hiruzen when he approached to his chair. The woman had come early, hoping to speak to the old man before the Kazekage would arrive. Mizukage Dono, he bowed his head to her. Jiraiya bowed, careful not to make any inappropriate remarks, no matter how much he wanted to, upon seeing the Mizukage's beauty again. But Hiruzen had made it clear that his usual behavior was not allowed. Very clear. I'm pleased to meet you again, Mizukage-sama, he bowed. Likewise. I've heard a great deal about the legendary Sannin. I apologize for not being fully aware of who you were earlier, she smiled before turning her attention towards the Hokage. Hokage Dono, have you considered my proposal? I have, Hiruzen smiled. Though the formal approval and signing will happen at a later point, I would gladly accept. Can't say I expected a defensive alliance from Kirigakura, Jiraiya spoke, with one brow raised. I must admit that it doesn't have much of a reputation when you look at the last treaties. I am well aware, Mei sighed. There are many things in Kirigakura that have yet to change, and I know we cannot undo the crimes of the past, but at some point we have to start. With this treaty I can take away the threat that Konoha poses to us, creating stability. And I expect that the increased trade between our nations will offset the losses we get from the missions against Konoha which we will now refuse. As well as it is a good manner to reduce the threat from Kumogakure, Hiruzen added. Kumo may be stronger than we are, but not strong enough to battle against two nations at the same time. The Raikage is rather ambitious, Jiraiya agreed. But they won't overestimate the ties between Kiri and Konoha. The bitter truth is that Konohagakure and Kirigakure have been adversaries for a long time, while Kumogakure has two fully trained Jinchuriki at their disposal. That is why I insisted on coming here. When Gato got killed, a large part of the opposing coalition in Kiri crumbled. That is why I was able to risk coming here. Otherwise, it would only have given my opponents an opportunity to revert the policies I put in place. And I am glad Hokage Dono lives up to his reputation when it comes to peace, Mei smiled. Besides, I was truly looking forward to seeing Haku fight. I've heard great things about his opponent. The last of the Uchiha, is he truly as gifted as the nobles believe? It is probably a bit exaggerated, Hiruzen admitted, suspecting from whom she heard it. But despite all the chatter from the nobles, Sasuke is undeniably one of our most talented youths. Ah, I see. Also, Haku told me a great deal about this Uzumaki Naruto. He surely turned out to be an interesting child. You've met Naruto. Hiruzen frowned. The Mizukage nodded. Yes, I think I will be looking forward to his fight as well. Especially considering his opponent, Haku and Zabuza told me a little about what happened in the previous rounds. I must admit I had not expected to see someone like him in the exams. Though, Kazekage Dono seemed to have had the same idea. Ah, he's finally here. Hiruzen turned as the Kazekage walked up towards them, and took the left seat after exchanging formal greetings. I had hoped it would be differently. Hiruzen hid his feelings, and signaled Jiraiya. But I fear it is really him. One of the two guards which the Kazekage had brought along answered the Hokage's look. And for a moment, the man smirked in a manner Hiruzen knew far too well. These seats aren't half bad at all, Kiba said as he admired the view. The stadium was slowly filling up, and he, Akamaru, Karen, Hinata, Haruki, Chi, and Akko took their places in a small box, where they had quite a lot more privacy than most of the crowd. Hitomi had deemed it unwise to let her, still weak, daughter sit in the middle of the common folk, even though she was not alone. I wonder when Naruto will be up, Karen wondered. I hope he doesn't have to face that Gaara right away, Haruki sighed. Akko saw Hinata's worried expression. Don't worry. He has trained hard this last month, I'm sure he will do great. I pity that Neji two-leg, she chortled, sitting on Akko's lap. He'll get what he deserves, Kiba replied with the undercurrent of anger obvious to all. Strange that you guys didn't get seats with the other Hyuga, I mean. You're the heir, right? Father was disappointed when I lost. Mother said he thought it would be best if I did not watch the finals, but mother arranged these seats instead. Hinata looked sadly at her family, who sat almost at the other side of the arena. And it isn't exactly like I am the heir of my clan. Father trains Hanabi, not me. Everyone knows she is more skilled than I am. Nonsense, Haruki said decisively. Being a shinobi is about more than just raw strength and ability. Yes. Look at Naruto, she remarked. He can't even buy clothes by himself, or so I heard. What? Karen wondered, and Kiba frowned. Naruto has a thing for the color orange. Haruki sighed. So one day, he burned another set of clothes with those crazy experiments of his, and he goes out to buy new clothes. Akko giggled when she thought back at Haruki's response. Let's just say that I accidentally burned that orange jumpsuit of his, Haruki grimaced a little. Imagine a ninja in orange. It would be pure suicide. Not that he cares. He never thinks things through. I swear those scrolls of his affect his brains. Is that why mother gave Naruto-kun those clothes? Hinata wondered. Perhaps. It is hard to say what my cousin does and does not know, Haruki shrugged. He did not want to tell her that she simply made a statement, supporting Naruto, who defied the Hyuga because of Hinata. Because of her position, Hitomi could not officially support Naruto, but in her own subtle way, she still gave a clear signal to those who paid attention. And amongst the elders of their clan, there was none foolish enough to underestimate the wife of their clan leader. Not that Karen or Kiba could understand all this. They were quickly distracted when the doors opened up, and the 12 finalists entered the arena. Naruto felt some excitement as he entered the arena. After all the training, he would finally get the chance to show Konoha what he could do. That he was more than just a monster. Don't tell me you are nervous, Tenten grinned. Me, only a little, Naruto admitted. Imagine I'd have to fight you, for example, he joked. Shikamaru looked at his former classmate, and noticed that he had looked at Gaara more than once. The secrecy annoyed him more than anything. Dad won't talk, but it's obvious that something big is going on. And from the looks of it, that Gaara is at the center of all the problems. Small wonder that Naruto is so focused on him. Shikamaru smiled a bit to himself. That guy always wants to solve things with force, though I doubt many know about that straightforward trait of his. He made quite an effort of it to hide his real personality. Hell, even Ino couldn't figure him out. I wonder who all have to fight, a somewhat pale Ino said to him. Don't worry too much, you'll define, Shikamaru assured her. But don't be reckless. Let's hope that one of us gets the chance to take revenge for Choji. Big plans for someone as lazy as you are, Tamari spoke up, walking behind the two. Though, I suppose that beating one of you would do as a warming up, she added with a mischievous smirk. As they walked out, the audience started to cheer, and the anxiety of some of the genin only increased. Now I'll fight a real opponent, Sasuke thought darkly. This month of training should pay off. You must be tired from the journey, Hiruzen tried to start a conversation with the rather silent Kazekage. Not at all, the Kazekage said from under the black mask that hid most of his face. Good thing it's held here this time, while you're still young, the trip may have been too much for you, Hokage Dono. Maybe it's time you decide on the 5th. He added, after Hiruzen smiled a bit. Please don't treat me like an old man, Hiruzen laughed. I intend to do this for another 5 years. You already have a successor waiting. Perhaps. Maybe one of those youngsters below will impress me today, Hiruzen smiled. Yes Naruto, show me if you have what it takes. Hokage-sama, the genin are ready, Namiyashi Rado bowed. Rado was one of the elite bodyguards that served the Hokage, and together with Jiraiya he acted as the guard of the Hokage today, as each cage was allowed 2 guards in their box. Hiruzen nodded at the scarred jonin, and stood up. Well now, let's begin, he sighed. Thanks everyone for coming to the Hidden Leaf Chunin selection exam. He shouted. We will now start the main tournament matches between the 12 participants who made it through the preliminaries. Please stay and watch until the end. Thank you Hokage-sama, Shiranui Genma answered from the grounds. Naruto wondered why this Senbon chewing guy was here, and not Hayate, who had acted as referee during the preliminaries. Must be on another duty, Naruto shrugged. On the large screen at the back of the arena you will see the matchups for the finals. As you can see, the winners of the first and second match will face each other during the second round, as will the winners of the third and fourth, and those who won the fifth and sixth. After that, the cages will decide who will have an extra match in the third round, Genma explained. I know this is somewhat unusual, but we got more capable genin than usual this year. Naruto looked behind him and couldn't suppress a wolfish smile. Neji. He whispered. Awesome. All right guys, the arena is a bit different but the rules are the same as in the prelims. You fight until one of you dies or acknowledges defeat, but if I determine that the fight is over, I'll step in and stop it, you all got that? Genma spoke strictly to the finalists. Sabaku no Gaara and Samui of Kumogakure, you two stay down here, the others go to the waiting room. As the others spread through the waiting room, Temari walked up to Naruto. You did not forget about your promise, I hope. She whispered, careful not to be heard by the others. Have you found a way to help? I'll do what I can, Naruto whispered back. I made a promise, and I'll never go back on my words. That said, I cannot guarantee that things won't get rough, but I'll do what I can to save him, as long as it doesn't get me killed. Temari nodded, but quickly moved towards her elder brother as Shikamaru came near. How come you're so close to them? He asked Naruto. What? Not jealous, I hope. Naruto teased him. Let's take a look. It seems like that girl hasn't forfeited yet, so this is bound to get interesting. So what's the deal with this Gaara? Shikamaru looked sharply at Naruto. He's dangerous, Naruto shrugged. But I'll take care of him in the second round. That remark earned him glares from Neji, but also from Sasuke. All the participants had seen Neji's prowess, and they all knew that it would not be easy to defeat him. If it even was possible. Even Sasuke, despite his progress, doubted he could be so confident and almost carelessly state such a thing. Shikamaru frowned, knowing full well that Naruto was not to the type to make careless statements, not when it came to these kinds of things at least. Begin, Genma shouted from below them, and all eyes turned to Sabaku no Gaara and his opponent. Well, the opponent drew more looks, especially from the male part of the audience, as her proportions were rather well developed. I'll stick with the plan Yugito-sensei gave me, Samui thought, as she darted around Gaara. The boy did not move a muscle, and looked rather bored. Samui realized that he only showed a different expression whenever that genin from Konoha was around. Uzumaki Naruto, you piqued his interest. Is it because you are like him? If so, this Gaara will want to conserve his chakra, so his guard might still be down. Samui regretted it that they had not known about the matchups sooner, but now she had prepared to fight any opponent, while her sensei had paid extra attention to both Gaara and the Uzumaki boy. You have seen their power, so it would be foolish to fight them head-on, Yugito had said while they were training. But that does not mean they are without weaknesses. Especially this Gaara, he seems rather slow. Your main strength is your speed, so use that to defeat him. Remember, do not force him in a defensive position, he uses sand as a shield, so he'll only be weak when you can catch him off guard. Strike fast, and strike hard. As Samui tested Gaara's defenses, she noticed that the sand protected him, even though he seemingly did nothing to control it. As if it was an automatic defense, she realized. Okay, time to test Sensei's theory. Naruto whistled, impressed by the sudden burst of speed from the young woman. He realized now why Guy Sensei had put so much emphasis on his speed. Gaara might be a lot stronger than Samui is, but if he can't touch her, she still has the advantage. Though I still have my Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, so that trick won't be so easy against me, he frowned. Unless it would be someone of Lee's level of speed. He looked at Haku, and realized that this boy might be his most dangerous opponent aside from Gaara. Samui got somewhat frustrated. None of her attacks got through that wall of sand that rose up every single time. This really is not cool. Trying to hit him from his blind spot proved unsuccessful. Regular piercing attacks were also pointless. And to make things worse, Samui began to sweat, feeling the exertion. She knew that whenever she would stand still, Gaara could grab her and she would end up just like that moron who faced him during the preliminaries. Can't see an opening? Then I'll have to gamble for it. Samui gritted her teeth and leapt back. She focused her chakra to the feet, just as she was taught, and pointed her blade at Gaara. The boy just stood there, not interested or impressed, but still slightly annoyed that she had been too fast for him to catch. He knew the expectations the Kakashi, his father, had put on him. Not that he cared. He just wanted to offer his blood. I'll get her for you, mother, he mumbled while he started to smile. I know you will like her blood. Here goes nothing, Samui sighed. Raiden. Thunderstrike, she exclaimed. Gaara's eyes widened when the girl suddenly disappeared, and a flash of lightning struck him from behind. She had been even faster than his defense had been, but she had failed to pierce the armor of sand he had kept up as a contingency. Still, he was thrown off his feet, and crashed hard into the nearby tree that stood in the arena. Flawless execution of the jutsu, Yugito mumbled. You've really grown, Samui. But it is not enough to beat an opponent of this caliber. Yugito was proud of Samui, but hoped that her student had the wisdom to surrender, rather than throw away her life by continuing the fight against a now angered Jinchuriki. It would be a waste for Kumogakur if such a talented kunoichi would die. This really is not cool, Samui panted. She had exhausted most of her chakra, and pierced her opponent's defense, but still he was unscathed. Another layer of defense. What is up with this guy? Not cool. She jumped back, nearly dodging the projectiles of sand which Gaara shot at her. The boy had stood up without any sign of injury, but his bored expression had changed. Samui shuddered when she saw the bloodlust and plain insanity in his eyes. There's only two ways out, she sighed, as she jumped towards the referee. I acknowledge defeat, she shouted. Even from this distance, it was impossible to fail to spot Gaara's annoyance that he could not kill his opponent. Not that he didn't try, but Genma jumped in. Naruto had seen Samui's strategy, and by the looks of it, Shikamaru had done the same. So speed alone is not enough, the lazy genin remarked. He had another defense, Naruto nodded. Seems like his body was covered by sand, but I could only see it the moment she hit him. Quite impressive how fast she was. Makes you wonder if someone like Lee could have beaten him. I just told you, Shikamaru said on a bored tone. Speed is not enough. This guy has some crazy endurance. It seems impossible to me that this is just a genin like us. He has his defenses, but that doesn't say much about his actual endurance, Naruto disagreed. Rip off that armor of his, and he could be wounded, Sasuke smirked, who listened to their conversation. But that would require a speed and strength none of us have, Shikamaru sighed. Well, at least I won't have to face him. Unless I manage to get too far into this tournament. Man, what a troublesome day this is. Naruto-kun. Tenten walked up to him. Shouldn't you go down there? Neji already left. And please don't kill him, please. I already made a promise, Naruto said bluntly as he looked at the girl's worried expression. And I will not break my word. I never do. Tenten did not know what to think or what to say as she saw Naruto jump down with a grim expression on his face. She did not particularly like her withdrawn and rather arrogant teammate, but still. Naruto had promised to kill him. What could she do? From the sidelines. Don't worry too much, Shikamaru tried to calm the nervous girl. He may be a bit dark, but he isn't such a bad guy once you get to know him. Sasuke just shook his head, knowing that Naruto was nothing like any of them would imagine. He'll kill without hesitation when he feels like he needs to, he pondered. Though, why didn't he kill that Haku? Why can he be ruthless against one person, yet spare the other? He never makes any sense. Interesting match, the Mizukage remarked. She was quite agile for a genin. And her judgment was accurate as well. She would make a fine chunin indeed, the Hokage agreed. I wonder why she failed the previous exam if she was this skilled. The Kakashi just nodded, a little annoyed that someone had been able to land a blow on his best weapon. Not that any of these children could hurt Gaara, But still, no one in Sunagakur had found this weakness in Gaara's abilities. We will have to review his training once we get back. Perhaps. But now, I am really looking forward to this match, Jiraiya smiled. A genius from the Hyuga clan versus your own student, the Mizukage revealed her knowledge about Konoha. You must surely be excited. Hiruzen frowned a bit, wondering how Jiraiya's involvement with Naruto's training became known across the border. No matter how tight you want to keep your security, something always slips through. We'll have to figure out who leaked this information. He sighed. But the Mizukage is right. First we have this fight. The Hokage smiled when he thought back at the commotion Konohamaru had caused when he found out he had to attend at the academy instead of view the match of his boss. That's it for this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe for the next video as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out my other playlists. Hope you would like them too.